Welcome to the Main Character Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Hamblin, main character of my own story. But this podcast isn't about me. It's about you, and all of you. Every person that has ever lived on this planet, all 8 billion people here now, all that came before us, and all that will come hereafter are the main characters in their own story. My aim is to interview people that embody living in their energy and discovering from their perspective what their perception of reality is like. Buckle up. You're about to experience the world through another main character's eyes. I'm so glad you're here, Mike.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here too.
You are...
Dude, I'm telling you, you've been making overnight celebrities, dude. I've been running into everybody. Like I saw, was Alex?
Yeah.
Again today in the gym.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. He works out with this other little white guy that looks just like him. These two little white dudes. They look like big brother, little brother. It's so funny. They're like both little.
Yeah, I know. He is pretty little.
Yeah. And I haven't seen Hannah since, but I said, if I ever run into her, I'll say hi to her.
Yeah.
And now that I know who Lucas is,
yeah,
you know, I can say hi to him too.
Yeah, he's at the gym. Well, and I love that, right? Because we are a relatively small community anyways. Yeah. But until you, this totally opens up an avenue for people.
It's everyone in your community. So it's everyone within Brandon's community.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah. But it's funny because, you see, I told you, like, it's like a celebrity. Like, you're like, I was walking the treadmill. I had just finished Hannah's the night prior.
Oh, yeah.
The next morning, I'm in the gym on the treadmill and I forgot my headphones and I was pissed. Because I was like, man,
oh, it's the worst.
I hate
you can't get into your headspace and work out.
Exactly, dude. Yeah. You got to hear all this other stupid stuff in the gym. And anyway, and you can hear really how loud you are. You're like, oh, dude, yeah. But I just heard this voice and I was like, I'm walking. You know, those treadmills face the window?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I know that voice. And I'm walking and I'm kind of on a treadmill and I do a mile before I work out.
Yeah.
But I do a brisk mile. So either I'm changing the incline on it or I'm upping the speed. So it's a hard mile.
Yep. Get the heart rate going, get loosed up.
Because I'm so big and, my weight, my knee surgeries, running's kind of like out. So I try to do hard mile, get warm, and then I hit the weights. So I'm going and I'm just like, man, I know that voice. And I'm like, and I'm trying to look, but I'm walking. So it's like, I don't want to be one of those guys that falls down and looks stupid. And then I slow down. Okay, I hear from the left. Let me turn. I look and I was like, now she looks familiar. And now the voice sounds familiar. She looks familiar.
Putting the pieces together.
Where have I? And so like being in law enforcement, like you know the bad guys right away.
Yeah.
Like if it was a bad voice, a bad person, you would recognize it right away. But it's the good people that are like, oh, okay, I know them, but from where?
Yeah.
So I knew the voice. And I'm just like, and then after a while I was thinking, I was like, dude, that was Brandon's podcast guest, Hannah. Yeah. And so I was like, then I told you, I was like, man, should I say hi? I was like, nah, I don't want to creep out because it's a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
she would have loved it.
This creepo dude.
She would have thought it was great.
So, and I didn't know, like, I think she was with Lucas.
Yeah, probably.
On the bike.
They tend to work out together.
So, I mean, I would have felt a lot better if, her husband was there. So if I would have known that prior to, but I was like, damn, straight up celebrity.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm like, dude, I want to be a celebrity.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Well, and you should be. You are, I was trying to figure this out with Terry. I think you're my 4th or 5th EBC networking person that met through those means. I might lose this arm here in a second. We're going to find out. We're just going to play it by ear.
Yeah, because you had Brittany, Emily, John, Terry, Wyatt. I'm 6th.
Oh, you're 6th.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, and I love our group.
Because I've seen them all, right?
So which I appreciate. I think you're the only person that I've had on that's like, I've watched them. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, it's good. And I don't even like podcasts. I told you.
I know.
I hate listening to people talk.
Man.
But this is different.
This is different.
Yeah.
This is different. Well, and you are, because I'd been in EBC for a little bit before you joined, and you are, I mean, Big Mike is like the right title for you because you are just this big, I think of you as a big loving teddy bear.
Those that know me say that. Those that don't know me say the opposite.
You are one of my absolute favorite people.
That's cool, man. I appreciate that.
And I love how life works because I just hit 38 years and you never know who's going to enter your life and at what point. And I'm so grateful that I get to know you and have you in my world.
That's a great introduction, man, but you have to lie.
No, it is so true.
It's all good.
It is so true.
Yeah, I think I joined because of Selena. The funny thing is I've been going to Selena for a while, dude. Before she told me, like, I think like the first day,
Yeah.
My very first massage, she was like, "Oh, what do you do?" I was like, I don't even think I had the janitorial gig. I was just starting the firearms gig, and she
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, I got this group, and you should come here and there." And then I had some ailment. I don't know if it was the plantar fasciitis yet, and she actually recommended Dustin and Emily,
Oh,
like
yeah.
right from the get.
Yeah.
Obviously, I threw the cards away and just forgot about it.
Right.
Saw her several more times, and then just as you keep seeing her, she just kept bringing it up.
Yeah.
And
Good referral. She's
yeah.
doing the networking job the way it's
So
supposed to.
she would just like go, and I was like, all right, I'll check this shit out, see what it is, So I show up, and I it was so funny. I was talking to Renee,
Yeah.
the gal Damon's guest.
Yeah.
Talking to her. Shit, what are we at? Today's Friday.
Yeah.
I was talking to her yesterday morning, and she was asking about the business.
Yeah.
Right. And then she asked about my business. And then we started talking about the group and stuff like that. And I was telling her, there's some good little, I thought the first thing for her, the good thing is that she doesn't have, there's nothing even close to her or nothing that overlaps with her business.
Right.
A lot of times we have businesses that they overlap because they can do both.
Right.
Even though they're there for A,
Yep.
they can kind of do A and B. And then B's there, but B can kind of do A too.
Right.
But I told her, like, you'll have the market on that.
Totally.
And, you'll have good referrals, kind of like, was it Dr. David?
Yep.
To get those guys in. So the referrals are there, and it's $250 a year. Come on. Her first client, she's going to make more.
Oh, she's going to make, no.
So even if she gets one client a year from that, I told her, like, you're good.
Yeah.
So I said.
Then it's really just a time commitment.
And I told her, like, just me personally, like, I joined it to network.
Yeah.
Like, my business, I know is not going to make a ton of money. I know it's not going to blow up. I know I'm not going to be freaking, rich. I did it for the networking. I did it to meet people, and to meet people personally, but to meet them obviously through the network side and get to know people in the area. Cause I'm pretty new there. I've only been here for a few years.
Right.
And so I can market myself. People get to know me. Cause once somebody knows you, it's different.
Yes.
Right. Like, you don't know someone, you're not going to refer nobody.
No, and especially here.
And even if you know what they do and all about their business, if you don't know them, you're still not going to refer them.
Totally.
Right? But once you get to know their business, you know them, and it's just like, oh, I'm sending everyone to Brandon. I'm sending everyone over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I did it. And that's why I continue to do it. It's not for money.
No, well, and I would do it just like if I didn't have a business, I'd make one up.
That's hilarious.
Because I love the group. It is like one of my
good group.
It's a good group.
And like I was telling her, like, in reality, in real time, we should be signing up to refer everybody else. Like, I'm there to refer everyone else because everyone else should be there to refer me.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
But it's a great group.
It's a great group.
And I tell everybody, like, I like the closeness. I like the friendships that are there. I think it should be more than that. And I like the way it is. It's small. It's small enough to be that way.
It's
I can
intimate.
see if we were big.
Yeah.
And it was just like, forget that dude or forget her or whatever. But
well, and it's easy to be a part of multiple networking groups, especially like Chamber or some of those ones that it is hundreds of members.
Yeah.
And then you occasionally run into the person, or they're always trying to pitch you their stuff.
Right.
Or there's 5 people that do the same thing as them.
Right.
Our group is set up really well.
It's a pretty good group. I mean, I think everybody's pretty cool.
So let's go there, because that was my intro to you, is seeing you come in and pitching your business. So what do you do? How did you get into it? Why do you like it?
So my business actually started in California. I worked for the sheriff's department down in Southern California. It actually started off as an active shooter presentation. Our department, our agency did not have an active shooter presentation for our professional staff.
Okay.
We had it for the deputies. We had it for training, right? We had it for the whole hands-on scenario-based type deal for the deputies. and the SWAT team and all that good stuff, the actual application, but we didn't have a presentation, so to speak, for our professional staff. We had a guy that did it. He was a school resource officer.
Yep. Okay.
And so he would do them for the schools if they requested it. And then we had a SWAT guy that was doing it and then quit doing them. He didn't quit the agency. I don't know if he promoted, I don't know what happened. And so they're like, hey, I was in the train division at the time. I was an instructor. And they're like, hey, we need this done. Commander gives it lieutenant gives it sergeant. Sergeant's like, hey, I got a dude. So Sarge gave it to me. So I had to create this presentation from scratch. And I did. And I piloted in front of our financial department. So everything that's within that agency that does financial things, they had like this retreat at the airport, like a 3-day retreat. And I had an hour slot to come in and do an active shooter presentation. That was the pilot.
Cool.
And they loved it.
Yeah.
It went like an hour and 20 minutes. They loved it. They had already by the time I got back to the office, they already heard about it.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah.
They're like, hey, I heard you
wildfire.
did a good job. And I looked at my boss and I was like, how the hell you know?
Yeah.
I just got back.
Yeah.
So that 1 hour presentation turned into a 2-hour presentation. Then it turned into a 3-hour presentation. Then finally it settled right in around 4 hours with the break.
Yeah.
Not rushing. And then I started giving those classes out to our professional staff within the department. Well, as I gave those out, there'd be somebody from some county service that's not sheriff, but a county service, and they would be in the meeting and they would come back and say, hey, look, veteran services, I work for veteran services for the county. I want you to come over here.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I got to ask the boss. I don't know. Right? You're not the sheriff's department.
Right.
So commander was like, yep, as long as it's on company hours, you just let them know it's free on behalf of the sheriff's department, as long as it's within your work hours and you're doing it, and
cool,
you can schedule it, and you're not taking away from the train division
responsibilities.
You're fine. So then I started doing that. And then obviously within those presentations, there's somebody from a private organization in those presentations because they're invited. Because I did some locations more than once because they had so many staff or their schedules were different.
Right.
So I had to go like to the same place 2 or 3 times to give it to everybody.
Yeah.
And so they'd have some kind of private organization member there and they'd be like, hey, now I want you to come to mom and pop local place.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I got to go back and ask the boss. Right.
Right.
So I go ask the boss. They were like, yeah, just on behalf of the sheriff's department, as long as it's within work hours, it doesn't take away, you're good. So
cool.
Now I'm doing our sheriff's department professional staff. I'm doing county services. So any like county social services, veterans affairs, anything that was the county resource or entity. And then now I'm doing private, I'm doing daycares, Christian schools, Catholic schools, because there's no hoops to jump through.
Right.
They just pay you, show up.
Yeah.
But we weren't getting paid, so it was even free. But and so it got to the point where I was getting so that's all I was doing.
Yeah.
That's all I was doing. I wasn't even so eventually, and I think I got nominated for Deputy of the Year, my boss.
Kick ass.
I didn't win, but finally the commander was like, hey man, this guy's, we need to come back. We need to get these. So like when we do training, like we do 2-year blocks, because a lot of stuff is, all our perishable skills or recertifiable things are every 24 months.
Yep.
So we do like these block trainings every 2 years and it gets really, really busy. So they're like, hey, this guy can't be doing this no more.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well,
he said yes too many times and I was like,
yeah.
shoot,
So I had this presentation that was mine. So I just took off all of the sheriff branding,
right,
changed it up a little bit and just kept it because it was mine. And then nothing. So I'm working, everything's fine. Well, a little while later, we buy a home in Idaho.
Yep.
So then it's like, let's move into this house, furnish it, and rent it out. So we came down here. It was during 2020. So California was
locked down.
Yes.
Yep.
Horrible. And my wife gets really claustrophobic. So with the whole mask thing, she
and
just
plastic everywhere. And
yeah, I think she went to like Trader Joe's and she had the mask below her nose and some lady chewed her out. She came home crying. So when we drove the U-Haul up here to move everything in, and once we started hanging out, we're like, hey, there's no mask.
Oh, COVID didn't exist up here.
Right. So my wife's like, I'm going to stay here. And at that time, my wife worked from home. And I was like,
You
can't
know,
stay
this is a
here."
little different than Southern California, right?
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, how are you gonna stay? You stay here by yourself?" She's like, "Yep." And I was like, "All right." So I went back and uh, just was going back and forth for almost a year
Oh, yeah.
um, before I finally just said, "Ah, this sucks. I'm gonna try to get a job over here."
Yeah.
And so now I'm here, and I'm like, "Well, what am I gonna do?"
Right.
I said, "Well, you know what? The the police agencies out here, the majority of the agencies are small.
Right.
They don't have, coming from California,
Different world.
we have large, what we consider a large agency is like large, like you're talking thousands of sworn versus a couple, 400 people.
Right.
Like in California, if you told me your agency was 400 to 600 cops, that's a small agency.
Babies. Yeah.
But out here, right, it's huge. So I said, well, what if I created this training and I can get it approved through whoever certifies the officers in each of these states, and I can get approved through them to do the training. So that was the thought.
Yeah. It's a good thought.
Somebody from California, one of the old places that I did the active shooter program, calls me back and says, "Hey, we want you to come back and do what you did last year." And it was 2 presentations because they got 4 offices, which they divide up into 2 presentations. And so we want you to come back and do the same 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, and."
Right.
And they're like, "What?" They're like, "Well, I retired from the sheriff's department. And now I'm in Idaho."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, so you can't do it?" And I was like, that's when the light bulb turned on. I was like,
You know
I
what?
can,
yeah,
but it's not free anymore.
Right. It's not a free service through the
unfortunately,
sheriff's
right?
department.
It'll be through my private company. And I had no company.
Right. Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, it's through my
that
private.
light bulb. Hey.
Yeah. I was like, it's through my private company. And she's like, and I was like, yeah, and I said, it's going to be expensive because, right, it has to cover the flight, the stay, the rental, and then the fee for the presentation. So if you guys don't want to do it, I understand. So I gave them the quote and they were like, yeah, no problem. They were a outpatient plastic surgery place.
Oh, they had money.
Yeah. So I think that's what it was. So I was like, holy smokes.
Hey, I
sent them an estimate. They took it. I still had no company.
Yeah.
So I had to get on LegalZoom.com.
Make up an
I had
LLC.
to pay the extra fee to get it expedited.
Yeah.
And then I got my business. And that's how it started.
Cool.
So I was doing active shooter awareness presentations in California with my business here.
That's funny.
Right. And so I did it. And then I started marketing here. A couple people that knew me. So I went to a few places here or in Eastern Washington. I did a couple active shooter presentations for them. And then I was like, well, obviously, this is not going to be a thing that provides money or income. Like, what else can I do? What else am I good at? What else do I enjoy? Because I'm all about doing something you love, right? If you do something you love, it's great.
Yeah.
And so I like shooting guns. I like firearms. I like tactics. So I was like, man, you know what? I'm a firearms instructor. I was a firearms instructor for the department. And I said, you know what? I can take the same emphasis on the active shooter presentation. When I was a training division with the department, we took the same core concept, which is mental conditioning, which is mindset, and poured it into firearms training. So yes, we take mental conditioning and mindset and to preach how important it is and how dynamic it is in an active shooter scenario, right? To increase your chances of survivability. But at the same time, we were seeing critical incidents where deputies were, I wouldn't say they underperformed. I would never say that because no one knows how they're performing in a real life situation.
Right. No,
when it's real time and you could really die.
Totally.
So we were saying, well, how can we improve, our deputies during these critical incidents? And we were going to trainings. We got sent here and there. We went to a training by Force Science. It was incredible. And then we would go to all these guys, these prominent big name guys that were coming back from overseas that were in the military. Yeah. That everyone reads about now. And they got podcasts now and they're super popular. Well, before they were super popular, they were just doing these videos or these interviews and they call it knowledge transfer. Yep. So they were just coming back. You'd be coming back from Afghanistan. You would just transfer your knowledge that you learned and gained from over there. Right. And then you transfer. So every one of them was about mindset. Yeah. Thinking man's game, mindset, crucial to any close interpersonal conflict, right? Get problem solve the fastest, get to the solution the sooner and take action, you're winning. So it's all mindset. Yep. And so I went and just, I was like, why aren't we doing this? It's
Right.
like, so, and then I was already in the active shooter presentation. So then what I did was, after we started pumping this out and changing the training for the deputies, I just took all of that and added it to the firearms.
Yep.
Right.
Makes
and
sense.
It's easy because it was already in my active shooter stuff that I was doing for organizations. And I just added that in to my firearms side of the business.
Yep.
And what's cool is the civilians don't get this training, right?
No, at all.
Law enforcement officers, we, if you're on a larger agency that has funding and so forth, you're getting legitimate training. You're getting it all the time. And a lot of times you take it for granted.
Right.
Where
totally.
civilians don't get any of that.
None.
They don't take it for granted. So like when you're saying things and you're instructing or you're teaching and things that you don't think are a big deal or like mind altering things or aha moments, that's what it is to civilians. They're like, oh my gosh, aha, whatever. And it's just like, wait a minute, let me take a step back.
You need to meet them where they're at.
These guys don't have the training. They weren't subjected to, all this valuable training, all this knowledge that we have. So let me scale it back and give them more of what I used to overlook because I thought was common knowledge. But not everyone's a gunslinger. Not everyone's in law enforcement. So not the majority don't think like that.
No.
And the majority think the opposite, fat, dumb, and happy. It'll never happen to me, blah, 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 blah. If you the Cooper color code, you live in the white.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, let me scale it back, revamp it. And then because since it's a lot when it comes to mental conditioning, when you're preparing yourself for combat or to performance, when your life's on the line, it's real intimate. So I was like, let me do one-on-one training.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure I'm huge on the instruction side. I'm the bad business guy because I'm worried about the content of what's being delivered and the instruction.
Right.
That's what I focus on. So like I did one-on-one. I started with one-on-one firearms training and I did no referral or all referral based, no websites, no advertisement. I'll just get one client word of mouth. And then when they're done, sooner or later, one of them will recommend me to someone else. And
totally.
It was great. It was awesome. And that's how, all that to say is that how's the business started.
Yeah.
Active shooter stuff in California, carried over to firearms here in Idaho. And now I do both here in Idaho.
And so there's a couple different thoughts that come up through that. The first one is your point about civilians not knowing is like most civilians aren't in those scenarios, right? Which is why they think it's never going to happen to me. There was a school shooting. There was, some postal worker went nuts. Whatever the thing is that's far away from me, not going to happen. Might bring some awareness that it could, but they still think they're in a safety zone.
Yeah.
And how many action movies have we all watched where, from John Wick to whatever terrible 80s action flick.
Yeah.
And it kind of, between glorifying and simplifying guns, it creates a completely unrealistic expectation for what guns are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have wherever you're at on the Second Amendment, right? Some people are, yep, everybody needs to have 10, or nope, everybody should have them stripped away. So you've got all this stuff going on culturally. For me, I remember thinking I would really like to know, because I think I needed to have a gun for protection, but I don't even know where to begin. They're kind of scary. I don't want to hurt myself or anybody else that I love. So how do I do this right? Then my grandpa died. I inherit 8 guns. So now all of a sudden I'm kind of forced into like, I really actually need to do something about this now. Mm-hmm. Have a buddy. We go to the shooting range. So I get, basic gun safety rules and, that sort of thing. But there is, even if that's where, I think that's where most people probably stop is, I've gone to the range a couple times. Mm-hmm. I have whatever. I'm good. No. I mean, you. If anything, you might be more dangerous.
I'll say this, officers, depending on what your certification requires, whether it's a state certification, most of them are some kind of states like post or criminal justice training commissions, whatever your certifying entity is, they'll have a set number of firearms training.
Yep.
Per 12 or 24 months. And that's not qualification.
Right.
So like we used to qualify once a month if you were in operations and once a quarter if you were in custody, working the jails.
Okay.
So if you were in patrol, your rifle and pistol, you were qualifying once a month. So
and what does qualifying look like? What does that mean?
Where you go and there's a qual shoot. So you have to go and you have to run through this course of fire and you have to score certain amount of points. I mean, you can't miss so
Right.
many with the pistol and rifle. And then if you don't, then you don't qualify. Then you have to go back and retake it
Yep.
and redo the same qual. And if you don't pass the second time, in our policy, it says you can be terminated.
Oh, damn.
But then you just cannot carry a firearm
Right. Yeah.
until you
'cause-
qualify,
yeah.
which is dangerous.
Yeah.
Because if something goes wrong within that non-qualification period, right, it's dangerous. But that's not training. So you'll go and they'll say load your pistol mag with X amount of rounds, load your rifle mag with X amount of rounds, or load 2 and 2,
Yep.
because they want you to do a mag reload usually within that string of fire. And we used to go from static shooting, right, just on
Right,
the
standing
line,
there,
targets
right
would
there.
turn. Then we basically turned it into a course of fire where you're moving, shooting. You have different weapon systems and so forth. So that's once a month, and that doesn't count as training.
Okay.
You still had to do
That's just qual.
like 4 to 8 hours firearms training block
Yep.
yearly to satisfy.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Okay. Then the guys that are a little more high speed, then they'll go out and get training on their own,
Uh-huh.
and they'll get the agency to pay for it
Right.
if it's if it applies to their
Job applicable.
what they're actually assigned to do.
Right.
Right. So all that to say is police officers and deputy sheriffs get more training than the average civilian, so to
Yeah.
speak. And yet they mess up
Well, yeah.
in critical incidents. They don't perform well. They freeze.
Well-
It's every which way to Sunday. It's flawless execution to, oh my gosh, what just happened, right?
Right.
So if the most trained personnel, right, are freezing up, getting scared, can't thought process, can't get through, of course everyone's going to be scared.
Right.
But if you're not thinking your way through the fear and you're getting to the point where you're panicking, that's bad.
Yeah.
And so if these guys are having a hard time doing it and they're the most best trained,
Yep.
what do you think the average Joe citizen is?
Well,
Whatever
right.
you think in your mind is not going to happen.
Yeah. You are
Right.
not the action star.
Gunshots in real life are really loud,
Yes, they are.
right? You hear people screaming, you hear people dying, right? You see some real stuff.
Panicking going on around
Right.
you. People running.
Yep. Trauma affects everybody different.
Yep.
We can have 5 people in here go through the same exact event, and everyone will experience it different,
Yep.
remember it different, and the trauma, that emotional, mental fight after you survive, when it comes back to attack us, everyone's that fight's going to be different in each one of us,
Right.
right?
Well, I've always been amazed by things like survivor's guilt, or just your world was disrupted, and you thought
Yeah.
your bubble that you thought you were in somewhat control of. Oh,
Yeah.
guess what? That can be broken at any point.
Yep. And then when I teach, I use real life examples.
Right? Yeah, you've
Yeah.
given me some good ones.
Yeah. So it's just, you don't even have to be harmed or touched. You can just be there
Yes,
while it occurred, survive the incident, and man, your whole life is going to change.
it's totally
You
going to
can
change.
lose. I've known people to lose their jobs,
Yep.
lose their families because they turned into invalids because of the trauma was so bad that it slowly just started shutting them down, and they became like an invalid.
Yeah.
And it's just like now they're on like long-term care, and you're talking like a 50-year-old average normal guy or gal that's loving life, where their life is truly, and that nothing happened to them other than just being there
Right.
and going through that trauma. So that's what we try to prepare people for, because even in the military, the technical training, the physical training, the muscle memory, right? That stuff is big, and we harp on that all the way through, but we don't harp on the mental and emotional training.
Right.
We don't harp on what you're going to see, how you're going to feel, what you're going to go through, how you're going to feel and think after that.
Right.
Like that's where we lose.
Well, right. Well, and I mean, just think about World War I and World War II, and they didn't even, it was what, shell shock in World War I?
Yeah.
They didn't have a good understanding or idea
Kids.
of PTSD and how to
Yeah.
deal with it. And
Vietnam, it's kids.
the
Got a
kids,
draft, man. It's,
right. They go from these good lives to all of a sudden you're seeing your buddy get blown up next to you.
yeah. Well, think about
That's
it. I
gonna
mean,
mess
I
you
don't know
up.
what your level of conspiracy theorism is.
Oh, it's
But-
it's here.
Look at Agent Orange in Vietnam, right? They created something to give our troops so they wouldn't be afraid,
Right.
right? And then them going crazy and all the way up to killing each other,
Yes.
right? So,
It's
that mental emotional aspect is where we're failing at, I think, in the military and in law enforcement. I mean, my agency was great. They caught on to that. And if we had something legitimate or something pressing and we took it to our command staff, they'd be like, oh, yeah.
they were on it.
They were on it. Yeah, they were forward thinking.
Yeah.
Which
that's
is
important.
great. But yeah, that's something we are failing on. And so when I take my business, whether I'm doing an active shooter awareness presentation or I'm doing one-on-one firearms training, the mental aspect is huge, because we talk about 3 fights. Obviously, the physical fight, you got to win that, right? Someone's trying to attack you or kill you, right? You got to win that fight.
Yep.
But afterwards comes a legal fight. People don't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Whether you kill them, whether you kill your attacker or severely injure them and they survive, you're going to get sued.
Yep.
So then there's a legal fight. So
Yep.
let's say you defend your life, someone's trying to kill you and you end up killing them. Well, you got to go through criminal proceedings, right? Because your killing has to be justified.
Right.
And then after the criminal proceeding, then comes a civil proceeding, because now you're going to get sued.
Yeah.
And then after that fight is the mental emotional fight, because no matter who or what you believe in, I'll always say this: human beings weren't created to kill other human beings.
No.
We weren't. It's not in our DNA.
No.
So even though you have every right to, because
Yep.
if you don't do it, you will perish. So even though you had every right to take this life, doesn't matter. Afterwards, your mental emotional fight, that's
Yeah.
going to be the harder fight. And that fight, who knows how big that adversary is, because it can be
Right.
different in Brandon and different in Mike. That adversary can be ginormous in my mind and in my heart, where to you it's like, I prepared for this, or hey,
Right.
I've been through this, right? This isn't my first rodeo, or whatever the case, or you're just more mentally, emotionally prepared,
Right.
and you deal with it because you knew it was coming. And so
Well, and
that's huge.
That's fascinating,
So
because
there's 3 fights, right?
the pieces of those that come out to me is, biologically we have fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, right? Like, you are just, that is the way.
There's so many acronyms, yeah.
Right. And as soon as you're in a situation, your heart rate goes up,
Mhm.
your adrenaline starts pumping.
Mhm.
What are you doing? And if your body's going to do that anyways,
Physiological side effects,
right? Are you mentally prepared to deal with that? And
Yeah, 'cause
how do you practice that?
because your body's gonna. If you don't do anything, your body will take over for you.
Yes.
Right. Those physiological side effects, tunnel vision, right? Auditory exclusion, even the loss of the use of some limbs,
Right. You freeze
or the
up.
freeze or the panic, right? All that's physiological side effects. And if what happens is, if you don't take control,
It
your
will take
body
control.
will take control for you. And
Yep.
that's what's happening when you're going through these physiological side effects. Your body is saying, well, guess what? We don't need this. Guess what? We don't need this.
Right.
So we're preserving ourselves.
Yes.
And you got to say, nope. You
No.
got
Wake
to
up.
turn the breaker back on and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm in control.
I need this.
You're not in control. And I prepared for this. Or I trained for this. Or even if you hadn't, even if you've done the mental conditioning, or you understand the mental emotional training that it takes just to survive an incident, because you don't have to have a firearm or a weapon. You don't have to go and take on the adversary. You just
Right.
got to be able to think through the fear,
Yep.
right?
You have
got
a
to
great-
problem solve and think while you're, crapping your pants, while it's real life. Yes,
Yep.
you could die. But as long as you can think through these certain phases and take action and do these things and create that decision in action and actually start to do that decision in action that you've created while you're scared, then you're winning.
Right.
Because that's how you increase survivability.
Right. Well, and I'm a bad student. Don't yell at me, please. I think there were 2 questions that you said I have to be able to answer before I go into a situation like that. And one of them was, what are you going to do? And then, or what are you willing to do?
Are you willing?
Are you willing?
Are you willing to do what? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to survive?
To survive. And then thinking through what that is, right? Because your point, I had always heard, if you're at work and you hear gunshots other end of the building, are you the person that's going to think and act on, I need to go be the hero? Or are you going to be the person that's, I need to do what I need to do to survive, and the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm getting as far away from this thing as possible, right? Well, if you haven't prepared at all to even think about what you're going to do in that situation, you have no idea what you're going to do in that situation.
And being by yourself, that's the easiest situation to be in. Now, let's say you're with your wife and your children.
Right.
So you're at a diner, right? Then it makes sense just to get everyone up and leave and get out, right?
Yeah.
If you can just escape and get everyone to safety and call the police, that's perfect.
Right.
That's what you'll do. But when you're by yourself, right, the concept should be the same. If you can escape, just because you have a weapon, just because you may have a firearm on your person, doesn't mean you have to take action.
Right.
I tell people that all the time. That firearm can just be for your imminent danger or for the imminent danger of your loved one. That's all it has to be. If you can leave, leave.
Right.
Because even if you can be the hero and want to be the hero and do be the hero, again, now we're going through the legal fight.
Yeah.
You're going through the criminal proceedings. You're going through civil proceedings. And now you're going through a mental emotional fight after that's all done.
Well, and either way, you're going to go through that.
Hero.
Because what if you did decide to get out and survive?
Right.
Then do you still have that mental emotional of, shoot, I could have done more. I could have saved lives.
And that's part of the mental conditioning.
Right.
So when you talk about survivor's guilt or could I have done this or that? No, you did exactly what you were trained to do.
Right.
So we talk about decision and action. That's actually a decision on you taking action, what you're actually going to do, have a plan before the crisis starts. So that way, when the crisis does start, all you're doing is taking action on that decision you've already created in your mind that you were going to do prior to. So that's all it takes is, hey, look, I'm here, right? I'm scanning for anomalies. I'm still enjoying this. I'm in a relaxed alert, but every now and then I'll scan for anomalies and something garners my attention, and so be it. And then if it's okay, then I go back and I'm just scanning and just living my normal life. And, but not in the white, not fat, dumb, and happy.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Just this relaxed alert where every now and then you just pick your head up and
color code it.
Scan for anomalies, right? Because everyone's in their phone. Everyone's goo from the person across the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have children, your attention
totally distracted,
already diverted.
Yep.
I used to do classes for just female students. I do like a female only class, and I would tell them like a female by themselves with multiple kids in the grocery store or something like that
is the best target.
Yeah, because your attentions are already diverted amongst however many kiddos you got, let alone they're little kids.
Yep.
Right, and then you got. Let's say you got two toddlers and then one infant in the chair, right? So now you got this infant in the chair that's different type of attention that's need to be garnered. You got two toddlers, and then you got to worry about the list, worry about what you're looking for, whatever happened in work, whatever's happened on your relationship or your personal life. Man, you won't see nothing coming
at all.
Right. So every now and then you just gotta be in situational awareness, and like people can disguise it and call it all this cool stuff. And
right.
blah, blah. You know, I tell people your mom did it when you were a little kid. When you hit the crosswalk, they slap you in the back of the head or pulled your ear and said, "Hey, dummy, pick your head up. We're about to cross the street. It's dangerous." Right?
There was a car coming. You were going to get
people will make
pancaked.
situations, you know, because they'll sell it and make money, and they just try to make it all this wazoo stuff. And there's some pretty good definitions and stuff. But it comes down to situational awareness is only a methodology.
Right.
Right. I can't train you in it. I can teach you the methodology.
Right.
But you're
the one that has,
you
have to practice it.
Exactly. And if you're not practicing it, then it doesn't matter, because again, it's a perishable skill. Like anything else. If
like
you're not
anything.
Going back to it, how many people can recite the Pythagorean theorem, right? From high school algebra.
Yep. Not me.
So
not off the top of my head. Nope.
It's just.
Do you have that, by the way?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Oh, shoot. I knew that.
That's the only thing I remember.
There you go.
Yeah. That's the only thing I remember. I like algebra like for 5 years. But yeah, so that's, if you're not, you're not privy to that, it's just, you just got to be able to think through the entire process.
Yeah.
No matter how scared you are, how bad things are. And it all comes down to your personal safety. You got to take care of you first.
Yep.
Because if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of nobody else.
No, it's the airplane thing, right? It's the thing. You're supposed to put the mask on yourself.
That's what I tell
first.
people. You can be so prepared and so squared away and so ready that when crisis does start and you're there, you can probably save a life that couldn't save themselves.
Right.
And that's the ultimate, like, pat on the back or a reward or whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you save yourself, man, that's you've accomplished the mission, so to speak. You're done, and then now, if you've done the mental conditioning and the preparation properly, now you know what's coming next. Now you know there's if you didn't take any action, there's no civil or criminal litigation, so that's gone. Now you just got to worry about that trauma hitting you later.
Yep.
With that mental emotional fight. And so once that trauma comes, now you got to work to deal with it, but it's coming.
Right.
So you're just preparing for it. And like I said, it affects everybody different. So
right. Well, and I'm always reminded of sports, right? Whether it's Russell Wilson was the big one for me as a Seahawks fan, or Tom Brady or Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, right? Like go down the list of these guys that they talk how much mental preparation they had to do. They were always meditating on and envisioning and playing through all the different scenarios and what would they do in this spot? What would they do in this spot? And they just practiced it mentally over and over and over and over again. So when that situation happens,
it's almost like they manifest it to happen that way.
They manifest it to happen that way.
Yeah.
Well, and our brains don't know the difference between reality, the hard physical in front of us, and the thing that we imagine to be true. It is true. We've committed. Our brain doesn't know the difference.
Right.
And so if you practice it and practice it, know, put yourself in any and every situation. What would I do? What would I do?
And
How do I act?
And that's encompassed in that mental conditioning we talked about is, conditioning yourself to take over your mind, whether your mind wants to think about this or that, or get sad or get whatever you want to call it after the fact. The mental conditioning helps you not just in the critical incident during the actual incident, get through it, but it helps you get through. Remember just how we talked about you taking back over control of your body from the physiological side effects. You say, nope, I'm back in control. I'm still here, flipping the breaker. It's the same thing. Totally. Afterward in the mental emotional fight, you're like, okay, look, flip on the switch. I'm taking back over. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes, it's sad, but it was correct.
Yes.
I was right. I had no
well,
other
and especially
choice.
Because you already played through that scenario and said,
yep.
This is the conclusion I came to when it hadn't happened yet.
Right.
And when I played through that scenario and I took those actions, I was okay with that because I had already thought it through and this was my justification.
And there was no crisis going on when you created that decision.
Right.
You created with sound mind and body.
Yes.
No stress, no fear. And then you went through it in reality. And then you're like, oh, it kind of happened the way I thought it would happen or trained it to be. Whereas if you don't do that and you just experience the trauma and afterwards, that's where all the second guessing comes in. Because you're like, oh, could I have done this? Could I have done that? Well, you know exactly what you could have done prior to if you had done it right.
Right.
But if you didn't and you just do it, that's where all the,
the second guessing. And
right. If you do something for the first time that you've never, it goes to anything. If you've done anything in your life for the very first time, like the very first time I'm going to play basketball.
Right.
Right. You're going to be like, I suck. But the second time you come back and the third time, you're going to get better and better. Right. It's the same thing with anything else. The more you do something, the more you concentrate and focus on that one thing, you will get better on it.
Yes.
Right. Like it's common sense. But if you don't do that, we can't, like, I don't play, I don't play hockey. So I don't expect to suit up and walk in the hockey rink and just be okay.
No, I'm probably falling on my ass.
But we do that when we carry a gun and don't train.
Right.
When we go into these places and some type of active shooter incident occurs or any type of violence, like we don't do that.
No.
We think we're going to be fine. We think we're going to be, oh yeah, I'll just do this and this and this, or this will happen. It's just like, no, like how can you expect to walk in the hockey rink and play hockey if you've never practiced?
Right.
It just blows my mind how people think, that overconfidence or stupidity, whatever you want to call it.
Well,
it's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Dangerous.
I'm always amazed anytime I go to a concert or some kind of large venue and I'm just looking around going, where are my exits? What the heck's going on? And I know 90% of the people they are so blissfully
especially in
unaware.
A crowded place. Exits are huge.
Crowded places. There's a little bit of freak out in me every time.
Because when our bodies experience stress and we're under that extreme duress, our minds will go back to what is most familiar to us.
Yeah.
So what's probably going to be most familiar to you at a venue that you're at for the first time is the entry door that you probably walked into.
Yep.
Which may not be the closest exit.
No, and that's going to be the majority of people's thoughts.
Under duress, you're going to be running to that one place.
Yeah.
You probably could just walk out right here.
There was an exit right there.
That's all how that works. But yeah, it's intrinsic, and I just tell people, like, carrying a concealed firearm, like carrying it on your person, under your clothes, like it requires the most training.
Yes.
Because in law enforcement, you got an outside the waistband holster. So everything's from the holster, everything's repetitious, right?
Yep.
You don't have to worry about clearing clothing.
Right.
You don't got to worry about your gun snagging, your holster underperforming, the holster coming out with the gun. there's so many things that can happen in a concealed carry situation that could slow you down, mess you up,
Oh yeah.
and ultimately you might lose because of those
Right.
small nanoseconds.
You always practice in a t-shirt, and the one time it actually happens, you have a sweatshirt on.
Yeah, exactly. So if I
Right.
mean, you dress around to the firearm, right? You don't dress the firearm to your ensemble.
Yeah.
You dress to the firearm. You just, I tell people you keep the firearm in the same spot your whole life.
Yep.
It never moves spots. It stays in the same spot on your person your entire life. You just work around that. But you got to train on clearing clothing. If you wear hoodies, then guess what? Go train on clearing the hoodie.
Yep.
If you wear button-ups, right? You're that old retired dude, work on the button-up shirt.
Yep.
If you wear t-shirts, whatever, jeans, sweatpants, right? You just train on it because
that is your real life.
Under duress, with your gross motor skills now, scared shit in your pants, you're going to operate a lot worse than you think.
You add in variables that you haven't trained in.
Yeah, so people just take that for granted, man. They think, oh, I know how to shoot guns and this and that, but it's not about shooting.
No.
It's a mental aspect of trauma, duress, fear, having to problem solve, think, and maneuver through all of that.
Yeah. Well, I think you've
That's a
said this
lot.
to me, and I'm going to butcher this, but you would put yourself up against the guy that has 1,000 more hours than you shooting because you have the mental conditioning.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. So, and that's how I give people like encouragement too. Like, I am not the best shooter. I'm average, if that. Right. But when I go sit in a room of like some really good dudes, guys that can, shoot a bird's eye out. Right.
Right.
I tell myself, so to encourage myself and not get discouraged, is I have to understand that if this is training or this is for a competition or one, I can lose and be okay.
Yeah.
But no one in this room is going to be more mentally prepared for combat than I will.
Yeah.
Right. My brain, my mind will be so conditioned that during real time in a real incident, I'm going to perform well.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm going to perform better, but I'm going to perform well.
Yeah.
Because I've took the time to condition my mindset for real life.
Right.
And that's the difference between a gunfighter and a sports shooter. Right. Gunfighter knows they can't take a day off because if they fail or lose or whatnot, it's life that's on the line, right? Human life, whether it be theirs, their partners, or civilians. Whereas a sports shooter, you lose, guess what? You buy a case of beer, you get laughed at.
Yeah.
You get to go shoot the next course that comes up or the next event. So that's huge. But yeah, you can sit in a room and look at everybody and just say, hey, look, there's some real killers in this room. They're really legit dudes, but are they mentally prepared like I am? Have they done what it takes every single day? Because, mental conditioning is a daily thing.
Yeah.
Have they done what it takes every single day to prepare themselves for reality?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then once you've done that, everything outside of reality is not so serious anymore.
Right. Exactly.
You can go shoot this. Like, I'm ready to do this in real life. I prepared for this in real life. Oh, you want me to go shoot still targets? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Done.
Right. So that just decompress. That's how
Well, I think that's a good point too, because
people.
it is a daily thing.
Yeah.
And so when you find yourself going to the grocery store, when you're out to dinner, you can literally practice every scenario on a daily basis. Why wouldn't you?
You could. I mean, you probably drive your wife or kids nuts.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
If you're asking them to help or create,
Well, and giving them that awareness too. So it would be a good thing.
But then they might think, oh, Dad's a crazy dude. That's why you have to, that's why I tell you, you have to get so good at it that it's just a scan for anomalies real quick.
Yep.
And it has to be, we call it relaxed alert. So no one has to know you're doing it.
Right.
No one should know you're doing it. Not even your company. You get just so subconsciously, set in doing that you don't have to, you're not giving it away every time you're doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's just a subconscious thing that you've trained yourself to do.
Just checking something really quick. Oh, okay. It was good. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt us.
No, it's all good.
Don't want to have screwed up audio.
I hear that.
Okay, so
I'm not a soft talker either. So.
No, well, so there's another important aspect here. There's a big spiritual component there. Because the other question I was thinking of, and maybe this wasn't one you asked, maybe it was, is are you willing to take a life? Right? Because cool, you take down the bad guy. There's a whole thing there of you taking life, and if you aren't, I think knowing where you stand in your belief system, just in general, it's probably an important point. You'd kind of mention that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, all that's tied up in the are you willing? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you willing to do whatever it takes to survive? Right. So you can be, hey, escape. It can be hide. It can be barricade yourself. It can be fighting the attacker and seriously injuring or killing the attacker. It can be anything within that gamut.
Right.
So that's the question. Are you willing to do? That's why it's not, are you willing to take a life? No, it's, are you willing to do whatever it takes to survive?
Yeah.
Because taking a life is only one aspect of it.
Right.
Right. Are you willing to jump in the bottom of an outhouse to hide and survive? Right. Like they saw Schindler's List. Remember when they jumped in the?
I've never seen Schindler's List, and because I'm kind of afraid, honestly.
Yeah. Well, the outside little outhouses.
Yeah.
They jumped in.
Oh.
The feces to hide. Right.
Damn.
I think it was Schindler's List.
Yeah, probably.
So like again, are you willing to do whatever it takes to survive? Are you willing to do that to survive? Let alone take a life. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd be shocked if you told me like there was some type of belief or religious system out there that said if someone's trying to kill you, let them kill you.
Well, I mean, there's what is the term? There's some hardcore Christians and other belief systems where like they've been drafted and they won't carry arms.
Oh, like Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge.
He was Mormon, I think.
He might have been.
I think he was Mormon.
Could have been. Which actually surprises me because there's a lot of Mormons that'll kill. But so I'm sure he would do all sorts of things willing to survive except for take somebody's life.
And again, no one knows what you're willing to really do
until you're in the situation. Yeah.
Like, so someone is actively killing you and there is no one there but you and them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do? Do you continue to fight? Do you continue to, sometimes you just continue to escape. You don't have it in your mindset that you want to injure or take their life, but you just have this mindset of escaping. And sometimes through the trauma and the fighting, you may end up taking their life.
Yeah.
So, the human body will always go back to that survival mode.
Yep.
It is
biological.
You will see people, and we train on this, and this is part of the training criteria, is you'll see people start to take action that their bodies are reacting instinctively and their mind hasn't even caught up yet.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're being attacked or something's going on and they start to do things, and you'll see, if you play it back, you'll see when their mind catches up to their instinct. Because your survival instinct will take over. And probably from the first second of that critical incident is going to be your instinctual nature taking over for you.
Isn't that wild?
And then your brain catches up to it. Right?
Yeah.
So, and there's obviously, that survival instinct, or that instinct that we have as humans, sometimes that's slower to react.
Yeah.
And some persons, it just depends on the person, because sometimes you'll see it a lot. You'll see people start taking action, and you'll see it, and then you'll see like, oh shoot, that's where their brain clicked.
Where it clicked in.
That's where it caught up. Because you'll go back to your basic survival instincts.
Yeah.
Right. What is it like? What is it? Food. Right. Heat or shelter, food, water,
sleep.
Yes, sleep. The necessities will overtake everything else. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You'll start to like, oh, I just got to do this, and your body will start doing it, and then your mind's like, oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
thanks body.
This whole consciousness thing is a trip. I argue that and I don't know if I argue it, but I think it's true. We've got these biological meat suits, right? These things that are driven to, if you took your mind out of it, it would do just that, right? It knows autopilot. Here's what I need.
But it would only be so good. Like if your mind never kicked in or caught up, it would be only so good, and it only go for a certain amount of time.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And the effectiveness as time goes on, and your mind doesn't catch up, your effectiveness starts to deteriorate.
Yeah.
Right? Your chance of survivability or doing whatever you need to do start to deteriorate if your mind doesn't catch up to what your instinctual body is doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes it's all instinctual. Sometimes people's brains don't catch up.
Right.
They survive. sometimes people's brains do catch up and they still perish. So it's just, but why take the risk?
Why
when
take
you
the
can
risk?
Prepare,
Yep.
you know, especially in this day and age.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
crazies everywhere, man.
There are crazies everywhere.
In such a tolerant society and tolerant government.
Yeah.
You know, some states, depending on where you live, are even more tolerant than others, and they're weak on crime. And you got all these people running the streets now when they shouldn't be. So dangerous.
It is dangerous.
I mean, look at your kids, man. We didn't have kids, but man, that would drive me nuts. Drive me nuts, especially in today's age. Like, you're not even just worried about someone like snatching them up.
Although I am definitely worried about that.
About someone, you know, sexually assaulting them or grooming them or manipulating them. You got to worry about being cyberbullied.
Yeah.
Like, not bullied in person or physically, but cyberbullying, they say, is like, I forget what I was reading this article. It's like so many times worse than actual physical bullying.
Really?
Because the physical bully comes from one bully, one person. And usually you get sympathy from everyone watching you get bullied.
Yeah.
Right? So you got basically one bad guy.
Yep.
And then you get sympathy from everyone else that's watching you get picked on.
Yeah.
Even though they don't exercise it, just children.
Right.
But check now, fast forward social media. You have multiple bullies.
Yeah.
All throughout the world. And nobody's there taking sides of you getting bullied. Everyone's jumping in.
Yeah, everybody's jumping on
the bad guy.
Yeah.
Or reading about it and saying, oh, it's too bad. I'm glad it wasn't me, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have the sympathy.
Nope.
And you have like quadruple, even more time the attackers.
Oh.
And it's worldwide.
Yep. That's a really
it's not just local to your school, to that one kid.
Right. No.
Right? It's everyone throughout the world that is seeing this. And every time it gets bumped or it gets shared,
it's
re-upped. It could never go away sometimes.
Yeah.
And social media is forever, right? You heard that.
Yeah. So yeah, it is.
So I mean, you add in all those things, you know, on top of what was already
dangerous. Yeah, society has gotten.
Let alone you get a daughter and they bring home some retard said, "Hey, it's my boyfriend."
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep. That's like
if your boy brought home a girl, you're like, Billy, come on, man. Billy could do better. You know?
Right. Yeah.
But you got your daughter comes home and you're just like,
what are you doing, sweetheart?
I thought we did better.
Yeah. I'm just glad.
Like, what do we do?
I'm just glad with my daughter that she's got 3 older brothers plus me and her mom.
Yeah.
She's got some layers of protection.
And she'll be a little tougher with brothers too.
Oh yeah, she'll definitely be tougher.
But you know, it's just a lot. It's just, you know, when you have children, man. And you know, I used to tell parents this in some of my presentations, some of my trainings, is like we're in an age where good parenting will fail.
Yes.
You can be the perfect parents.
Yeah.
You can have all the provision in the world, give all your kids the best upbringing possible, the most harmonious, loving, caring, knowledgeable, the most provised upbringing. And we're in a society where they will still fail. Yeah. That's crazy, right? That's scary.
Well, and you and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was such amazing insight. I think the question was something along the lines of, what did you notice while in law enforcement between kids that were more or less good and kids that didn't make it or got into trouble and all sorts of stuff? And I loved your answer.
Yeah. All of them, like the really bad ones.
Right.
I just, for whatever reason, they couldn't take it to their parent or guardian.
Yeah.
Because they felt ashamed, embarrassed, or that they would be in trouble or get lashed at or belittled or put down. That, not that mom and dad wouldn't understand, but that they would get some type of negative thing coming back.
Yeah.
Whether it's embarrassment, shame, anger, letdown. And it was just like, man, if they could have just took it to mom and dad been open and sat the kid down and been objective and be like, hey, just love you, want to help you, like, oh my gosh, rather than judgment's crazy, man.
It is
right,
crazy.
And people think like we give judgment in more ways than just our words or our mouth, right? It could be body language, it could be facial expression, it can even be feeling.
Yes,
like I can just feel animosity and then boom, there's that judgment, right? So you know, that's what I would tell parents. Like most of these kids, and I'm talking really selling drugs, prostitution, and we're talking teenagers or younger, saying, man, how'd you get here?
Right.
And a lot of times I just couldn't bring it to mom or dad
Isn't that nuts?
because of whatever negative connotation would come from that.
That is so heartbreaking.
And then you go talk to the parents. You'd be like, hey, mom and dad, like they didn't take this to you 7 years ago because they said X, Y, and Z, or you'd get this or feel that or tell them that. And then mom and dad would be like, no, like they say that now.
Of course.
But they're like, no, I wouldn't have done that. But if hindsight, that's why hindsight's so expensive. Hindsight costs so much. But in hindsight, maybe you would have acted like that and not acted like you think you would have. But after the fact, now you're like, oh man, now moving forward, I can be more objective and more open with my children or whatnot, or I can even help the next parent.
Yeah.
Right. That's why hindsight's so expensive. But yeah, it was because they couldn't bring it to mom or dad. And originally, when it was a smaller problem.
Yep. And then it just grows and grows and grows. And then it's a fucking dam.
And we're humans.
And
even though they're children, there's still shame.
Yes.
There's still embarrassment on even though they don't know the totality of what's going on, so to speak. They still feel shame. They still feel embarrassment.
Yeah.
They know there's some type of recourse for what they've done. They might even get in trouble, even though they're being honest and bringing the truth to the surface. So it's tough, you know. I'm not a parent. I'll never give parenting advice, but I told you it's one of the hardest things in life, right?
Yeah, but
parenting and being a spouse. Those are the two hardest things in life.
Which is so amazing because what you just said, communication is key. Right. Communication and not judging. And
not judging in all those ways we talked about, right? Not having the animosity, the body language, the words, just, you know, just that nurturing for your kid. Like, hey, I care for you, here for you.
Yeah.
Like, tell me what's going on. We'll work through this together.
Yes.
Rather than me just, you know, cracking on the whip or doing what I think's right.
Well, and
I'm not saying there's times where you got to do that, right? If your kid comes with some outlandish, stupid, wild
thing,
you got to crack down. I get
that. Right.
But a lot of times when your kids are struggling, man, or they've done something wrong, but there's remorse in their heart, and they're coming to mom and dad with their contrite spirit or contrite heart, and you got to take advantage of that.
There's what's the quote? It's something along the lines of reprove betimes with sharpness. So like correct that thing quickly, and then afterwards show love.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's being a parent is the goofiest thing because like
or you can even do the opposite. You can show love and then crack the whip later. Hey, I love you.
Yes.
It's all good. But you know, you're grounded for 2 weeks.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And
there's no guideline for it.
There's
no outline. And there's no step-by-step process.
Well, and there can't be because every parent is different. Situation. Every child is different. Every relationship between a parent and a child is different. Mm-hmm. And so
even with the same parents and the same children, if you got multiple children, even though you're the same parent, you can attest to this because you have multiple children. Your relationship or yours and Rachel's relationship with every kid is different.
Yes.
Everyone is different. And every kid's personality is different.
Yes.
Yeah.
My uncle.
It's like calculus.
My grandparents, super soft with him. It's like calculus. It is. Yeah. Think of the most advanced
it's a math problem you can never figure out.
No. Like, you're on the chalkboard for days and just keep going and going and going. My uncle was raised super soft. Got away with everything, did all sorts of stuff. My mom, they were super strict with her, and she still did a whole bunch of stuff. Me with my kids, we used to spank the oldest, and he, you know, and actually probably a little bit more aggressive than that. I wouldn't say we beat our child, but he got corrected.
Hey, if you need it, you need it.
Right, but now he holds that against us. Whereas the other ones, it's gotten spankings less and less and less.
Your oldest one wants he wants, full service. He wants that affirmative action. Like, if I got whooped,
you got to whoop on them.
Yeah.
We were talking about
no one left out, buddy.
No, he was even saying the other night, he's like, man, sometimes when I'm babysitting and he's 13, he looks at the 8-year-old and he's like, I want to smack this kid.
You only do, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's
well, when he's the babysitter, you can smack him. You know, hey, I had to crack the whip, Dad. Hey, this guy was being a jerk.
He was being a jerk. I had to correct it. I still love him. I told him I love him. But it is, and even if it's a fear of like, well, I don't want to get grounded from video games. Okay, well, there is some kind of repercussion for doing the wrong thing. You aren't just going to keep doing that thing. But this doesn't mean don't come to me in the future with things because I do love you, but I want you to be the best version of you as possible.
Yeah.
And oh man, parenting is
hard.
It's hard. Okay, so
Tough.
don't have kids, but maybe this is a good point to jump into, because what has made Mike Mike? What was childhood like?
Child was kind of shitty. So I have an older sister.
Okay.
She's
How much older?
9 years older.
Oh yeah, older.
Yeah. So when I was born, my sister was 9. So I always say this, like my sister got mom and dad happy life for half for the 9 years, 10 years. And then all the crap happened. And then she got the crap. Whereas me, I didn't get mom and dad happy times because I wasn't old enough. By the time I came, it started to get crappy from there. And then I had mom
Okay.
only.
Yep.
So my sister had 2 parents, good, then the crap, where I had crap and then just my mom.
Yeah.
So even though we're brother and sister and we're almost identical, everyone will tell you we're almost identical, other than male, female. We were raised
In 2 different families almost.
yeah, and raised apart
Yeah.
because our home was so bad that my sister left the home, I think her senior year of high school, and never came back.
Oh, she was done.
Yeah, so I was, at that time, I think I was like in 3rd grade.
Yeah, so you're an only child at that point.
Yeah, and so dad went to prison and mom went to rehab and I went to grandma's house. And then
Holy
my sister
smokes.
lived with, I guess, a friend.
Yeah.
There's so many parts of like that childhood stuff that I don't remember that either my sister has clued me into after the fact later on in life, or I can just think back now as an adult, oh, that's what I was experiencing. This is what was really happening. So basically my mom and dad got married, good relationship. They had my sister.
And this is SoCal?
This is Central California.
Central Cal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom and dad meet, they get married. I think my mom was a high school senior when she got pregnant with my sister. Had my sister, bought a house, and my dad had a van club.
What's a van club?
In the 70s, they were popular, man, where everyone would get the van, they'd trick it out.
What?
Yeah. And
I didn't know this was a
club, you know,
thing.
like a car club? It was a
Yeah.
van club.
Like the Jeeps that get together and all that stuff.
Yeah, but it was this, look up 70s vans, man. And so my dad had a van called the Moonflower. And
That's
from what I
cool.
know, my dad, obviously, he worked at FMC. It was this chemical plant.
Okay.
And my mom worked at Zaki Farms at that time. And my dad wanted to fix up or add to or spoof up the van. Started selling, I think, marijuana on the side.
Okay.
Using marijuana. And then it started to use and selling cocaine because this is the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Early 80s. And then introduced it to my mom, I think on her like 30th birthday.
Happy
And,
birthday.
Yeah, my dad was a functional user. So my dad can go to work Monday through Friday.
Yep.
Do drugs,
Take a hit, go.
and drink alcohol on the weekends and party hard, and then go back to work on Monday. Where my mom was a non-functional user. Once she touched a drug, her body just craved it after that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so when she'd go on binges and be gone for days, weeks at a time.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was shitty. And back then, there's no cell phones, and even if there was, you know,
No,
they
don't call. My dad, when he was on a runner,
you don't know where they're at.
You have no idea.
You don't know when they're coming back. You just
Nope.
prayed for them every single day. And in our home too, like, and then when they were together in the house, they were fighting.
Toxic.
Oh yeah. Verbal abuse, physical abuse, just crazy.
Cats and dogs.
Yeah, it was horrible, man. It was, you know, I didn't know what it was, but looking back, the fear and anxiety as a child, like you're just like, ugh. Or what's even worse than that, bro, is like the physical abuse is one thing. Verbal abuse, seeing it and being there. I remember even my sister tried to stick up for my mom one time, and she got shoved to the side and all that stuff.
Jeez.
That wasn't as bad as when my mom was gone on a binge and I didn't know where she was.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about anxiety-filled days, and I still had to go to school.
Oh,
I
yeah.
still had to eat. I still had to do all my normal things. Usually I'm at my grandma's house. Thank God for my grandma.
Yeah.
So many great memories at that house. But yeah, so that was the worst. Those were the worst feelings of just having that anxiety and that worry when my mom was gone for days at a time and not knowing if she'd come back or if she would ever come back or come back alive, right?
Right.
So those are some of the worst. And also too, like even as a kid, like I knew when mom was different.
Oh, yeah.
So when mom was high,
Yep.
I can tell as a kid, mom was just different.
Yep.
And I knew when mom was different, I had to latch onto her because she would try to leave me.
Uh-huh.
So like when I fell asleep, I'd try to stay awake and not fall asleep because I knew my mom would leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was just her and I. So I would like fall asleep and like hold her
You-
arm so
you're-
tight. But
you're
when you're
gripping.
out as a kid,
Oh, they can just slink
and
out.
then she'd be gone. Or like when she was different, I knew we were going to leave. I knew we were just going to get in a car and drive who knows where and maybe stay at some weird motel. And
Jeez.
yeah, so like knowing mom was different, that's a horrible feeling. And then you're just being a part of all the BS
Right.
was tough. And you know, like we've talked, you know, going through all of that, you kind of grow up quicker than you should.
Well, yeah, for sure.
You become a more dominant personality. You create defensive mechanisms that are incredible.
Yeah.
You know, you go to school and you actually kind of become, even though I like wasn't a physical bully.
Yeah.
I was kind of a verbal bully.
Yeah.
You know, even though I try to pick on kids that weren't the normal bullied kids.
Right.
Like if you were bullying someone else, I'd probably pick on you.
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
if you're bullying a kid that couldn't defend himself and this weak little kid,
right.
I'd probably bully you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I was like verbal bully.
Yeah.
But you create this defense mechanism that even to this day, and Rachel can attest, was I met Rachel, like I don't even know they're there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't even know I'm doing them.
No.
Like they're just so natural. Right. I was fighting my wife the other day and I came back from the west side of Washington with some horrible 3 days of my life, showed up. I just didn't have the time to deal with it. So I just went into my room and just sat there by myself. And I had to tell my wife later on that I think I said like something like I didn't have the mask to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because I can come from shit and then show up and be happy in front of Brandon and this great, put this mask on,
yeah.
Take this hat off, put this one on.
Yeah.
But I was so defeated that, you know, and
You
then,
just
you know, we
didn't
were
have-
quarreling too. So it was just like, man, it was just so much. I didn't have time. I didn't have the energy to switch that hat real quick and put up that new defense mechanism
Yeah.
and deal with the spouse and then deal with what I had. So that's what that creates, man. It creates that anxiety and this fear. And I didn't even know what anxiety was, right?
No.
Until
Yeah.
I was an adult. And I didn't even know, even as an adult, when I figured out what it was, I didn't even know that it took me years after that to realize that's what I was experiencing as a kid.
Oh.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, we can go into depth about it, but basically my father was a functional user.
Yeah.
My mom was not. So mom would be gone for days at a time. And, you know, my father was, did drugs and alcohol, and my mom, you know, did both, but it was the cocaine addiction that really altered
Tipped
her
it over.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, my sister was gone. She was doing her own thing.
Right.
And then when mom was in rehab, because dad went to prison because he sold marijuana and cocaine. One of the guys he sold to, I think, set him up, and
Got
long story
busted.
short, he got busted and went to prison.
How old were you when that happened?
I was in third grade, so I'd have been
Oh,
like
that was third grade.
9 at the
Okay.
oldest.
Yep.
So from third grade forward, my dad was never in my life
Gone.
as a dad.
Yep.
Because from third grade forward, he was in and out of prison my whole life.
Okay.
But, you know, he'd come out. He'd always stay with my grandmother.
Yeah.
So when I'd go
Your
visit
safe space.
So when I'd go visit my grandma on my dad's side,
Mm-hmm.
he was always there. So I'd see him. But I didn't go visit my dad.
No.
I went to go visit my grandmother. My dad was just there.
Yeah.
So we never had like a father-son relationship. It was more like
This dude.
a distant uncle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he never raised me, did nothing. My mom did it all by herself. While fighting a drug addiction.
Yeah.
Getting back, squaring her compass back to zero. All the while those years were going on, she was actually taking care of me too at the same time.
Jeez.
All by herself. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah,
When did
she's
she get clean and sober?
phenomenal. I think like she battled the addiction for 7 years total. So I think the last time she relapsed, I think like I was in 7th or 8th grade.
Okay.
Her last like true relapse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where she was gone for and she was only gone for like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But by then I had a bike. So even though like she didn't drop me off at school,
Yeah.
the junior high was down the street
Yeah.
in the apartment we lived in. So I just ride my bike to school and pretend like, but people are like, oh, you got a bike? Like, yeah, bro.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
up?
I only pull it out when I need it.
Oh,
But that
man.
was the last true relapse. And then
Yeah.
from then on, and then she actually became a probation officer.
Oh,
She never got
really?
caught. Yeah, she never got caught for doing anything bad. She was just a drug addict for several years fighting an addiction.
Whoa.
She actually became a
she was on
probation
there.
officer, and she became a social worker, a counselor.
No way.
Yeah, and that's what everyone knows her for, because she was the counselor before she was the counselor.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
people would go to her for counsel.
Yeah.
So she became a
So she ended up flipping that script and serving probably based on
And she was an excellent social worker because
she could
she'd been there,
empathize.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I used to do, right? When we talk about like counseling, therapy, even religion,
Yeah.
you know, Christianity or Catholicism,
Yeah.
like people would try to talk to me, and I'd be like, "Who are you? What do you know? What do you know
Right.
about my life? Like,
Yeah.
have you went through this?
Yeah.
Then no. If you don't have no credibility,
Yeah.
right, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Your
that's the way I was
your
as a
words mean
kid. I was a
nothing.
jerk, but you know, even where people had the grace of hearts and trying to help me or preach God to me, you know, growing up, it was met with utter
Probably disdain.
oh man, yeah. And
Well,
but it was to the point where one, you don't have credibility because
right.
you know, I would ask them like, "Hey, what was your childhood like?"
Right.
I'd be like, "Oh, I had
It was
mom
great.
and dad, yeah,
Brothers,
you know,
sisters.
yeah, I went to Harvard and or you know, graduated, got my so basically they paid for all my school, they paid for all my provision. Then I got the certificate, and now I'm coming to help you." Like,
Yeah. Screw you.
yeah, get out of here, dude. Like, so that's the way I was. I was that way. Or when people would try to preach, you know, Jesus out of the goodness of their hearts,
Yes.
you know, I would throw it back in their face.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, so you're perfect. Okay,
Right.
cool. Like, all right, tell me how I'm supposed to be perfect, right?
Right.
And so, oh, so you're so perfect, and you have this great life, and you need Jesus. But did you have this going in your life? Did you have this? Did you have that? Sometimes it worked against me.
Oh, yeah.
Someone would say, "Yeah, dude, I did have that."
Oh.
Or they'll be like, "Hey, I had this. Did you have that?" I'm like, "Oh shoot, no, I didn't have that."
Uh-huh.
Right. So sometimes, but most of the time it didn't.
Right.
Because like, you know, like I said, the defense mechanisms go up so fast that even when people were trying to help me with the goodness of my heart, it was just close everyone off.
Right. Well, and okay, so there's a couple so many different things in there that are fascinating, and I'm curious about. Right, first 7 years of your life, theta state, you're a blank computer downloading all of your surroundings on how to do life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So having, and it's trying to keep you alive and help you thrive. But you're in this environment going, mom and dad are fighting. I don't know when mom's going to be home. As a child, we want nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
We want safety.
Mm-hmm.
We want love. Everybody wants comfort. And you're having to adapt to everything but that.
And we also wanted it for my mom, right? But my dad was a monster.
Right.
Yeah. Because when they were home together, it was fighting.
Yeah.
When mom was out on a binge, it was just dad coming and going from work. Dad would bring other girls home, even though my mom was married, which is kind of weird. But as a kid, you'd be like, who's Lisa? Like,
right.
Oh, that's my friend, kid. You know, it's my friend, son.
You're
just like, but you don't get it because you're you're third grade. You're
you
8 or 9
don't
years
know.
old. You're just like, okay, you
know? Don't come into my room.
So my dad was like living his own life while my mom was out binging, and sometimes my sister would take care of me when she was home before she moved out. A lot of times it was my sister. You know, she was in high school throughout those times. So like the crap hit the fan, so to speak, in third grade. And it probably started before even kindergarten, because I remember in our first home, them looking back now, having parties with like friends or aunts and uncles where they were. I loved it because my cousins were there, and we get to stay up late and watch MTV.
Of course,
like the Thriller. You know, at that time, the Thriller video was on like every 2 minutes, so it was like a little scary movie every time.
Yeah,
my cousins were there, and we weren't going to bed because they were staying up partying.
Right.
It was 2, 3 in the morning. We're watching TV.
Heck yeah,
it was great.
Yeah,
but you look back, and you know they were doing drugs and partying and stuff like that.
Right.
So it started before I started school, and by the time it hit third grade, man, it was just we had moved from our first home and bought a 2-story in this brand new development, this nice house.
Yeah.
I started third grade at a different school that was just around the corner.
Yeah.
And it crumbled so fast that after the first semester, I went back to my old school district, my old school, and completed school there.
Oh.
That's how fast that crumbled. They
Damn.
lost the home. They lost everything. It got all foreclosed on. I don't remember all that. I remember it got foreclosed, but I don't even remember going to move all the stuff out, all the furniture.
Right.
I don't even know how we got the furniture out.
Yeah, the memory's gone.
And like
blocked.
I said, then dad went to prison, and then mom went to rehab, and I went to my grandma's house on my mom's side.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, bless her heart, she's passed. Her and my grandpa are passed. But if it wasn't for that lady in her house, Man, I had so many
What
great childhood
I was going to
memories
say,
there.
what does that mean for you? What was grandma and grandpa like?
So on my mom's side, grandma and grandpa were nurturing. My mom's side of the family was larger.
Okay.
So there was more aunts and uncles, there was more cousins. And going to grandma's house, they lived kind of like out at that time, it was out in the country.
Yeah.
It's no longer out in the country now.
No,
There's
yeah,
tract
yeah, it's
homes
developed
now.
out. Yeah.
But back then it was out in the country, and you had a good probability going to grandma's house of seeing one of your cousins because your aunt or uncle would be there.
Yeah.
And you'd get to see one of your cousins. So I remember they say, "Hey, Mikey, go get your clothes and shoes on. We're going to grandma's house." And I would say, "Grandma in Callaway or Grandma West Side?" Because Grandma West Side was a fun one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The one that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Grandma in Callaway
Was
on the east side, inner city, very mean.
Oh.
Very, I mean, I love her now that I got older, but very, very strict.
Uh-huh.
Her house was immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
It was just her and my grandfather. So like when you went there, you had to like sit on the couch, postured. You couldn't, you weren't drinking a drink, or eating food outside of the kitchen table.
Yo, yeah.
You couldn't even be standing there, you know what I mean? So very strict, very mean.
Yep.
And I didn't like that.
No.
And my dad's side is a small side. It's a small family. There's only 4 of them total, but only 3 of them had kids at that time. And one of them's kid was way older and lived in a different city.
So you don't get to see.
So I really only had 2 cousins.
Yeah.
And my dad's side that were of my, within my
age range.
that we hung out with. And they lived in the mountains an hour and 15 minutes outside the city.
Oh, yeah.
So
totally
going to grandma's
different
house,
worlds.
it was just me, grandma, grandpa, and my parents. That was lame when we went to grandma.
Yeah.
But grandma on west side, my grandfather had a 3-acre farm.
Yep.
He had goats, pigs, cows, roosters, bunnies. He even had geese.
Oh, yeah.
Dogs, roosters. He had everything.
Man.
He always had goats and pigs.
Okay.
Constant.
Yeah. Yep.
He'd butcher them and sell them and stuff like that. But so they had a 3-acre farm, I think a 3.5-acre lot total. They had a big house.
Yeah.
And like I said, you'd always get to see your aunt and uncle. There was a good chance of seeing aunt and uncle and a cousin when you went there.
It sounds like fun and love.
So when I was there, living there, whether I was by myself or with my mom, because a lot of times my mom would live there when she was cleaned up or whatnot.
Yeah.
We didn't have a place. We'd go back to grandma's. My cousin and his sister, who kind of grew up with, their dad was a single dad. And so everyone went to grandma's house after school, and then the parents, aunts and uncles would pick them up after work and take them home.
Yeah.
So we'd all meet at grandma's house in the morning, take the bus. The bus dropped us off at grandma's house, and then slowly throughout the day, aunts and uncles would pick up the. Yeah. So I lived there, so I never left.
Right.
And the one cousin that I grew up with, I was closest to, his dad was a single dad, and he worked late, and he would come the latest, pick him up the latest.
Yeah.
And they were always there. So we were always at grandma's house, even on the weekends in the summertime.
Yeah.
My uncle worked, so summers were a blast because there was always the 2 of us.
Yeah.
We played baseball, we played kickball, we played football, basketball. He was 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
But man, those are some of the funnest childhood mememories.
I was going to say, that sounds like.
So it wasn't for my grandma and my grandfather, man. It would be complete, utter disaster.
What did you call her grandma?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Grandma and grandpa.
The only reason I ask is I always love the different nicknames that grandparents get, because like I called my favorite person, my mom's dad, my grandpa, I called him Papa.
Yeah.
And I remember when somebody first said the same thing, called their grandfather Papa, I was like,
yeah,
can you use that name? It's named from my grandparent.
Yeah.
That happens.
No, grandma and grandpa. And even though like as a kid growing up, you're learning Spanish, because my grandparents on both sides didn't speak English.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So my parents spoke English to us.
Yeah.
But my grandparents didn't speak any English.
No, so you're getting second language.
So that's the only reason why I do know Spanish.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
it.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh, and you probably ate good too.
And even though, when the mean grandma cooked good, best cook ever.
Really?
Yeah, the good grandma, horrible.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so funny.
Oh no.
And my mom's a bad cook, right?
Oh
so
no. Oh man. Okay.
But,
all right.
It was just different. It was the grandma, the bad grandma, or the mean grandma.
Yeah.
Was, bro, to this day I miss it. To this day.
Yeah.
My aunt, the oldest of her kids, my aunt cooks almost identical, pretty
Oh,
close, like the
yeah.
best carbon copy.
Yeah.
You know, so
She
now
got
and
some of
then-
the family recipes.
Yeah, but we don't see them too often.
Oh,
So
you're gonna have you asked them for them? Like,
no, it's the kind of not like that. They were the
Oh.
ones that lived in the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after my two cousins, their sons got families and had grandkids, they finally sold that place.
Yeah.
And moved out to the city, back to the city. But it took them having grandchildren to move back out here.
Yeah.
So but the summers up there were good too, because as I got older, I would do summers over there. They lived in Squaw Valley.
Yeah.
And I'd go over there for the summertime growing up, getting older.
Yeah.
And it was fun. My mom always had something for me every summer, whether it was, as I got older, it was work or hang out at up in the mountains with my cousins or whatnot, at least for a few days or a week.
Yeah.
So that was good. But yeah, if it wasn't for Grandma on West Side, man, I won't have
Grandma West Side.
too many childhood memories that were just awesome. And it was me and my cousin, we get together. And so we just talk about all the dumb shit we did.
Yeah.
We did some stupid stuff.
Okay, wait, what's the definition of stupid stuff?
Stupid, man. Stupid. Like we went and graffitied signs at the local grocery store. We had remember, it was out in the country.
Right.
So if you walked like 4 blocks, which is not even 4 blocks, it's country.
Right.
But like equivalent to 4 blocks, there was like a small general store that was owned by, a private person,
right?
A family.
Yeah. Little
so
family.
We got these markers and we like wrote our name on the sign. Or we'd go in and like steal baseball cards. I think. It was just stupid.
It was. Yeah.
We'd always go on my grandfather's farm and harass the animals.
I was gonna say, well, yeah.
Yeah, we killed a goose one time. We were just messing with it, and I think we did the same thing with a goat.
Yeah.
He had a goat tied up to a post because he was going to butcher it later.
Yeah.
And sell it or he already sold it and he was going to butcher it.
Right.
Well, we were kids and we were just messing with the goat, but it was tied to the post.
Yeah.
And it just ended up, I don't know if it strangled itself. I don't remember what happened, but the goat died.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then because it was in summertime, it started to balloon up with gas. And then we're dumb kids. We're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like the stomach's growing.
Right.
So we got a stick and we poked it. And all this nasty smelling gas.
It probably reeked.
Dude, I tell you what, my grandfather came home, bless his heart. So I don't know my grandfather in his first job that he already retired from.
Yeah.
So when I pick up and I start knowing Grandpa, it's on his second job.
Okay.
So he worked at Firearms, which is a chicken plant.
Yep.
So my grandfather, his life was clockwork. He'd come home, take his shoes off, put his boots on, and go tend his animals in the backyard.
Right into
come
it.
in when it was dinner time, eat dinner. He was an alcoholic, have a few beers, shower, and go to bed.
Yep.
And that was every day.
Rinse and repeat.
Every day. And on payday, he would come home with a case of beer, a couple candies for the grandkids, and then the rest of the money went to my grandma.
Yeah.
And, she would use that for groceries and stuff like that. So my grandfather, but he would come home, and when he would change into boots and he'd find out we were in the back or we messed with his tools. What's so funny is I walk in the hardware store today and I'll see a pipe bender and I'm like, oh, that's what that was in my grandfather's school. Then I was using to hack up a tree or dig a hole. I was like, oh, it was a pipe bender,
Yeah.
So he would come home livid sometimes, and my grandfather would chase us. Chase us around the property.
Yeah. Yelling probably.
No. Stealth.
Oh,
like he would hide.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was almost like hide and go seek, but dangerous.
But if he gets a hold of you.
Yeah, so we would we were kids, so we thought it was funny.
Yeah, of course.
We thought it was entertainment. My grandfather was really trying to catch us and whoop our butt because we used to kill a goat, man. We took,
or you messed with his tools.
We took money out of his, out of his pocket, we would drink his beers, right? And then he would count. He got smart. He would count them.
Yeah.
And then he caught on.
Of course. And he probably had that paced out too. He knew how many he could have before payday.
But I'm telling you, this guy, I don't know if there's a movie, I think it's called Sleepers, where they're in New York and they take the hot dog cart from this guy and they're attempting to throw it down the stairwell in the subway.
Okay. I don't remember
looking at him. And so they let the cart go and the guy chases him. The cart ends up killing somebody. And they end up going to I don't know, juvenile hall or some boys camp. And that's where the movie really starts.
So,
but there's a point in time where this guy, the hot dog vendor, is chasing him. and they're across the street from each other. And the kid goes, man, I looked into his eyes and he could have chased for 2 more hours on hate alone.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
damn.
Like,
Yeah, that's a good line.
That was my grandfather, man.
Yeah.
You could see him like, oh man, this isn't going to stop.
No, yeah. He's the
this isn't gonna
Terminator. He's
stop.
going to keep coming until he
Yeah,
gets
and
you.
sometimes he would chase us until dinner time, eat dinner, and wouldn't tend to the animals, or he'd go do what he needed to do real quick and then go back and go to bed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was poor guy, man. But you know what? As I got older, he became my other grandfather was really nice. Even though my other grandmother,
your grandmother was mean.
My grandfather was really nice.
Yeah.
She would always be like, "Hey, Maria, calm down, take it easy on him."
Yeah.
And then she would shoot him out, right?
Yeah.
But no, my my grandfather growing up, the one on my mom's side,
West
that caused
side.
so much pain. We got really close.
Did you?
And when I became a law enforcement officer, he was really happy. He was really proud.
Oh,
we actually
sure.
drove him out to my graduation.
Cool.
Because at that time I lived in Southern California.
Yeah.
4 hours south of where I lived before. And so he actually came out there, him and my grandma. Because when I graduated, my grandfather on my mom's side and my grandmother on my dad's side were the only 2 living.
Oh, wow.
My grandmother on my mom's side was an invalid because she got dementia.
Oh, no.
And just shut down and became an invalid.
Yeah.
And then so my grandfather was still well. And then my grandfather on my dad's side was the oldest out of all 4 of them.
And made
died
it
of
longest.
emphysema.
Really?
Yeah, he died of he was the oldest at that time. He didn't live the longest, but he was the oldest at that time. And even though he got emphysema and he stopped smoking, I think the emphysema killed him like 5 or 6 years later, even though he stopped.
Ugh.
Yeah, he died like just after high school, I think. But he was the first to pass away. So one grandparent was deceased, one was an invalid, but the other 2
came to graduation.
My uncle on my dad's side, because my dad's brother worked with my grandfather at the chicken plant.
Yeah.
They'd always tell funny stories about Grandpa Jesse.
Yeah.
He actually drove them down to my graduation, and my grandparent, one on each side, were at my graduation.
I can't imagine the smiles on their faces.
It was great. My grandma, the mean grandma, probably was complaining, but my grandfather was so proud on my mom's side.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, because he's sitting here thinking, man, this kid killed one of my goats, and here he finally made something of himself.
Yeah, and he would always, my grandfather, so he always had the head of the table.
Yeah, okay.
It was his chair. You didn't sit there.
Yeah.
He ate dinner there. He read the paper there. So remember when I lived there a lot.
Yeah.
He would always read the paper, even on the weekends.
Yep.
He'd read the paper and drink his coffee before he had to do his errands or go into the farm and deal with the animals.
Yeah.
So he'd always call me over. Hey, Mikey, come sit down. And he'd sit me down like right where I'm at, and he'd be at the head of the table, and he'd be like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like, your generation, they're good for nothing. They know nothing. They can do nothing for themselves." Okay, Gramps, appreciate it. Okay, you can go play. But that was his way of imparting wisdom.
Yeah,
saying that my generation was crap. And it's so funny. I'm looking at my niece and nephew, and I'm telling them the same shit.
Right. The older generation always thinks the younger generation is crap.
Because I was looking at my nephews and nieces, I'm like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah.
Like, that's what my grandfather probably looked at me like, this kid's an idiot.
Yeah.
Or he would sit down and he would read something in the paper, and he'd sit me down and be like, Mikey, read that. What do you think about that?
Oh, cool.
And I'd be like, I was a kid. I'm like, crap, I don't care. I just want to go outside and play basketball.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, this or that. And then he'd give his wisdom, which I wasn't listening to.
Right.
And then it would be like, hey, can I leave? He's like, yeah, you can go. Get out of here.
Yep.
But
some of that soaked in, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it, right? Because you look back on what he was trying to do.
Yep.
And the thought process behind it. And you're just like, man, I took that for granted.
Oh,
but I was a kid. I was stupid.
I was thinking about that this morning because I drive my oldest to jazz band every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And, charter is 10, maybe 15 minutes away, depending on the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And man, sometimes I'm going on politics. Sometimes we're talking music. Sometimes we're talking, it could be anything and everything. But that was exactly my thought this morning is I am so grateful that I'm at a point in my life where I get to think about these moments and go, this is going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And he might think it's, man, my dad always talks.
You may not even know it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But I hope, and I think one of these days he's going to look back and go, man, those days that dad drove me to school.
And I even remember as a child being scolded or being disciplined. That was horrific. But as an adult, I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
My mom brought the hammer. I'm so grateful for that whooping. I'm so grateful for that slap to the face. Like, I'm so grateful the hammer. So there's even bad times, so to speak, as a child that as an adult, I'm so thankful for. And I think back and she didn't do that or wasn't that way.
That corrective action.
Because one thing about my mom, even though she was like, even when she was battling the drug addiction, and even afterwards, she never ever let me use her peril or her downfall for my wrongdoing.
Oh,
I could
you
never
could not
say,
use that as
well, you're
as
hooked
an
on
excuse.
drugs. You know, you're a coke addict. You know, she wouldn't let that slide.
Nope.
She's like, son, that's my life.
Yep.
That's me. You got yours. And guess what? You can't do yours by yourself. You still need me, right? So she was always like, wouldn't never let me fail and blame it on her or her problems or whatnot. She was big on that. So like I couldn't use that excuse when we argued because she would just kill it. She would just cut it off and be like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. So I'm curious about mom because let's see here. What was the age that you said that she last used for you?
Junior high. So
Junior high.
I want to say it was in 8th grade.
Yeah. Right around there.
So 13.
Yep. So then you have the rest of your teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
She's now counselor, probation officer, doing that stuff. What did you? Okay, maybe as we lead into that, did you? I take it. I mean, you had to have still loved your mom and just wished she was like. What was it? Had to be tough during that phase, but then what was it like as she cleaned up and what did the relationship?
My mom was always great.
She was always great.
Even through the bad stuff, me and mom were.
Yeah,
mom was incredible every time. Because
you're clinging to her. When
even
she's
in our
leaving.
first house.
Yeah.
Even before I knew things were really bad, in our first home, my father was. He was the kind of like the sarcastic discipliner.
Okay.
Like my dad didn't bring you into the house and take off his belt and spank you. My dad didn't bend you over his knee and spank. My dad would do whatever.
Yeah.
He'd pull your hair.
Damn.
Pull your ear.
Yeah.
Slap you in the back to get your attention and then scold you, right?
Okay.
That's how he did it.
Yeah.
And my dad was cold where my mom was nurturing. So I'll give you a story. I remember, so I used to be Little Mike. Hilarious. Hilarious, right?
Is that like Little John? But
so I used to be, I was the youngest kid in the neighborhood.
Okay.
The next closest kid to me in age was 2 years.
Okay.
So I was the youngest kid, even though I wasn't the smallest. I was the youngest. So I was Little Mike. So I'd always get beat up and I'd always come home crying. I'd always get hurt because they were too rough.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
And we lived in the city. So, I would go places with them where I really couldn't go. I'd get in trouble. So one time, I don't know what happened. I came home crying. Obviously, the kids roughed me up. And my dad's like, hey, don't play with them no more. I told you not to play with them. Stop crying.
Yeah.
Don't play with them.
Yeah.
Second time I'm telling you, right? All right, cool, whatever. So I remember one time the kids were outside riding their bikes. And I was like, cool, go get my bike. And I couldn't ride on the street.
Okay.
I had to ride on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Well, these kids, of course, right? Baby's kids, they're riding their bikes on the street.
Right.
So I was like, well, I don't want to get in trouble. So I would parallel the kids riding their bikes on the street and I parallel them on the sidewalk.
Right.
And then you start, when you're paralleling someone, it's like a race.
Uh-huh.
So now these kids sped up. So I sped up. Well, a couple houses coming down, these houses were split by a cinder block wall. And the cinder block wall came all the way out to the sidewalk, but it declined in height.
Yeah.
To where it got to where at the edge of the sidewalk, it was only like 2 cinder blocks high.
Yeah.
And then 3, and then 4, and then 5, 6, 7 was the fence.
Right.
So the portion that was visible from the fence gate to the sidewalk, it was kind of like a ziggurat.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm riding my bike and I'm staring at the kids. I don't see, remember that 2 cinder block height? My bike tire hit it.
Yeah, it did.
When I flew over the bike handlebars, the next little step up, that corner filleted my armpit.
Damn.
Open, and I was just bleeding like crazy. and it was hurting, it was burning.
Yeah.
Because there was sweat and stuff. I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I was terrified. I was there on my bike crying. Kids were laughing. I'm terrified because I'm in excruciating pain. There's a lot of blood on my white t-shirt, but I don't want to go home.
Right. Because you don't want to tell dad because
I'm
third time.
I'm even from eyesight from our house.
Yeah.
If he would have walked outside, he could have saw me. So anyway, it was so painful and so bloody that I went home. I saw my dad first.
Yeah.
And my dad said something to the effect of, told you.
Yeah.
And slapped me in the back of the head or the back and told me to go inside. So I go inside and my mom hears the commotion.
Yeah.
With me and dad, and I'm crying.
Oh yeah.
Right. So my dad yelled at me, told me to go inside, like slapped me. I think he slapped me like in the back and told me to get inside. My mom comes out like, what's going on? Well, my mom sees blood all in my t-shirt, takes my shirt off, and she sees my whole freaking armpits filleted open.
Yeah.
Just not filleted open, but it was a huge, like the whole armpit was a strawberry.
Yeah. Yep.
So she takes me into the bathroom. Obviously, she puts peroxide on it, burns the hell out of it. But then she starts to nurture me. Like, she calms me down. I'm crying. I'm doing one of those horrific cries because it's painful.
Yeah.
And then I just got, whooped by my dad. And so she was just nurturing me and, just made a joke and just a soft back of the hand, feeling moment.
Yeah.
And that's how she was.
I love that story because it gives exactly that example of the communication piece between children and parents of, could you have then you didn't want to go home because your dad was going to not nurture. Mm-hmm. He was just going to reprimand. Your mom.
He never knew what the reprimand was going to be.
Right.
It was like a toss up.
So why would you take anything, any concern, any problem, anything to your dad versus
right.
Mom's at least might have some of that, but there's at least going to be the nurturing piece too.
Right. Right. And what's crazy is you fast forward now after all the crap, now it's just mom and Mike. My mom, after the addiction, was meaner.
Oh, she was.
Right. And I don't know if she was meaner because she had to be a single parent.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair.
Right. Dad was the enforcer wasn't there no more.
Right. She had to play both roles.
Right. Or if it was something to do with the drugs.
Right.
Or if I was just getting worse. Like I was a really bad kid because of everything I went through. I was one of those kids that acted out, right? I think we talked about it. When there's turmoil in the home, the kid will either become an introvert, weirdo, or a kid that acts it out.
Of course.
He's loud, he's obnoxious.
That energy has to get out somewhere.
Yeah. So I was the loud, obnoxious, energetic kid that was getting in trouble because all the stuff that I was dealing with, I would just it was all outgoing from me.
Right.
And so gotten a lot of, so I don't know if my mom's demeanor changed because of the drugs or because of all the aforementioned stuff. Now she's the enforcer. Obviously I'm getting older. I'm doing more stupid stuff, worse stuff.
Yeah.
And, going through what we went through, I'm sure my mom could probably think like, why is he acting like this? Like,
right.
He doesn't know the crap that he doesn't realize what we've already went through.
Right.
He's still acting like a jackass.
Yeah.
But I think as a kid, you're getting that out in a negative way. All of the stuff that was being poured into you,
of course,
that you can't understand, you can't articulate.
Right.
You don't even know what's going on. You're just acting out.
No, you were adapting to your environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then still continuing to play it out.
Yep. And just to satisfy my mom, I'd always get good grades, but I had the worst behavior. Right? Like, because my mom had two jobs as far back as I can remember.
Right.
Probation officer in the daytime, social worker at night.
Yep.
So as far back as I can remember, she had two jobs.
Yeah.
So as long as I brought home report cards that had good grades, A's and B's.
There you go.
My mom was good. Like if I had a C, I'd probably get grounded and she'd probably be like, oh, you're average. That's what my mom was.
Oh, yeah.
So you're just average. You
like
being average, you know what average is? Average is average, and that's like, no, I'm not average. You know what I mean?
You're right.
I'm more than average,
Yeah.
And she's all right, then
it was a little bit of motivation.
Yeah, bring the C up to a B or an A,
Yeah.
So I always brought home A's and B's. We had honor roll and merit lists when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was always on one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Because to satisfy my mom.
Yeah.
But when it came time to parent teacher conference.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'd get it handed to me.
Yeah?
Because the teacher would tell my mom what a horrible student I was in class.
And what did that look like?
Not paying attention, disrespectful, interrupting the class, getting other kids in trouble, stuff like that.
So talking, being the class clown.
Yeah, but
Being
more than a
disruptive.
clown, man. I was more defiant
Yeah. Okay.
than a clown. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't make fun of you to make fun of you to hurt your feelings,
Oh yeah.
even as a teacher.
Yeah. Well.
Like, I wasn't just being dumb and acting out.
Yeah.
I would try to
But
stick my finger in that
you'd,
wound.
you'd find
I'd
it.
try to
and
find it. Yeah.
What's the weakness? I'm getting it.
Or I would be challenging an argument. But, you know, I always had great social skills, man. So,
Yeah.
you know, like back then, we used to sit in groups
Yep.
in elementary school, group of 5 or 6.
Right.
And when you got in trouble, before there was a bad group, they would put you in a good group.
Yep. Try and bring you up.
They'd put you in the group with all the smart kids. Well, give me 3-4 minutes, I got all the smart kids talking. And now the teacher's having to tell them to be quiet.
Right.
They know I'm the culprit, but I'm not talking.
Right.
But I would get you to talk. So that's how sneaky it was, you know, like that's how jackassery works. So yeah, I would get, so eventually it would go back to put all the bad kids in one group.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
you're just feeding off.
and
of
then
each
the
other.
bad kids, that group was the group that sat right in front of the teacher's table.
Yep.
Which was bad.
Yep.
Because I remember Miss Barrick, bless her heart, man. If I ever seen her, I gave her a hug. She'd always come with this big, like 32-ounce mug of coffee every morning.
Yep.
And we
Well, yeah,
sat
get through the day with the kids. Damn.
right by her table. So we'd put spitballs in her coffee all day long. And she was just drinking that thing because we sat right there, right?
Right. Yeah.
So good and bad. So that's how it was. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I was defiant, backtalk, argumentative, disruptive. Obviously, not only just disrupting my own self, but disrupting other people.
Right.
The
Yeah.
class, the lecture, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so my mom, when she would hear that, come home and get a whooping, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, my mom brought the hammer, dude.
Did she?
I remember when I was becoming a Christian as an adult and they were talking about grace and mercy. I was like, bullshit. Rosie needs to be here. My mom needs to be here and start learning about grace and mercy.
Right. Yeah.
That hammer always came. And I remember in 3rd grade, we had this career thing, like a career day. It's 3rd grade.
Right.
Well, my older cousins were in gangs at that time.
Oh.
And that looked, to me, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like I looked at I had a male and female. They were older than me. Because you know how my sister's 9 years older?
Yeah.
So we have a group of cousins that are in that age range.
Yeah.
Or maybe a couple years younger than her, but far older than me.
Yeah.
And they were getting into gangs. And it was...
There's acceptance, there's empowerment, there's power. There's a lot that's attractive, especially when the rest of the world looks messy. Or why would you go get a sucker job and work for the man or whatever variation of that you want to label it?
Yep. So that was prominent to me. And and when you're a kid coming from a broken home, getting into trouble, great defense mechanisms. Who do you think you flock to at school? Other kids
that are in the
same problems.
Of course.
That all have, I think.
Why would you go hang out with the kids that are stable?
All of my 3 friends in elementary, my close 3 friends that we went through elementary together, all had single parents, all of us.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And we all had problems. I think we were all Hispanic, believe it or not. That's a shocker. But we all had the same dysfunctional home.
Yeah.
We all had a single parent. 3 of us had a single mom. 1 of them had a single dad. 2 of us were the only child, and 2 had older siblings.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was a difference there.
Yep. But pretty damn similar.
Yeah.
Scenarios.
So, and they had similar things in their family. They had uncles or cousins or brothers that were getting into gangs.
Yep.
So we thought we were like this little gang. Believe it or not, in elementary school, right? I look at kids now and I'm like, I thought I was a grown man in 7th grade.
Of course. Yeah.
Like, so stupid. But so I want to be, I like gangs. It was fascinating. I remember in 3rd grade, we got a new principal. Mr. Mallory retired. We got Dr. McChesney. We had to call him Doctor.
Damn.
Yeah. Been calling him Mr. McChesney.
He got that title and he was going to make you use it.
So 3rd grade, we had a transition to principal. We had a career day and I told him that I wanted to be a gang member.
Oh.
I'll never forget that. So I pulled him in the office. Dr. McChesney talked to me. And then they call my mom.
Yeah.
Mom shows up. They tell mom. Mom gives me a look like, okay. She chews out the principal.
Oh, she did.
my son's only what, 9, 10 years old.
Right.
Like, how can you say my son's in a gang? Like, that's stupid.
Right.
Like, you're
right.
an adult.
Yeah.
He's
Don't be
obviously an
stupid.
idiot.
Yeah.
He obviously said something because he saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you can't really think he's
in a
gang member.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm shooting out. But when we got home, yeah, I got the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember in 5th grade. So we always had, in elementary school, we always had 2 grades, 2 classrooms for each grade.
Yeah.
So there's always 2 first grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. So there's always 2 different classes, 2 teachers for each grade.
Yep.
And in 5th grade, the other teacher was female. At that time, nothing to what is in today's realm, but she was the prettiest teacher at that time.
Yeah.
And my friends had set me up. I didn't know she was behind me.
Uh-huh.
And they said, "Oh, what did you say you were going to do, Miss Valentine?" And I said, I said some choice words, about intercourse and stuff like that.
Yeah, give her the business.
Yeah, 5th grade, right?
Yeah.
Something along that line with some explanatives, right? Well, she was right behind me with my teacher. And I got popped, and my friends were laughing. I go to the office. They call my mom.
Oh, no.
So this is how my mom, this is a great example of how my mom operates. So I'm sitting in the chair. There's Dr. McChesney again.
Oh, no.
And Ms. Valentine's standing up next to him. He's sitting at his desk. And I'm here. My mom's here. So obviously they know each other now, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, just want to let you know.
Your little gang member here is now trying to bang the
your
teacher.
Son said, and she goes, "Stop." She interrupted him. And she said, "You know what? I want to hear from my son's mouth exactly what he said. I want my son to tell me exactly what he said.
Damn.
He better not lie." And she turned and faced me. Man, I'll tell you what, that was
Did
one of the
you
most,
just turn like red instantly
crumble,
and
man,
just,
crumble.
oh, jeez.
I went from like hardcore kid to crying, like the sniffle cry. And my mom said, "You better not lie." She goes, "Yeah, I want my son to tell me exactly what he said." And she looks at me, and now I'm looking at her. I'm looking at Miss Valentine's there too.
Yeah, she could repeat it too. She knows.
So, but having to say it in front of her,
from mom
again.
Oh,
so I was like, I said,
yeah.
My mom said, "You better speak up."
Oh, damn.
And if you don't tell me this time, you're really in trouble. Right? So I said it as low as I could, and I said it, and then my mom whacked me, and then the principal said, "Hey, stop."
You got to wait until you get home to.
And then she said I was going to get it. And I think that was the first time I got slapped in the face when I got home.
Oh.
Like full on, like full extension, slapped in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was
well, and I was going to ask what your mom's version of
discipline.
Yeah.
My mom had a couple. Sometimes it was all of them. Sometimes it was 1 or 2 of the but I always got whooped.
Yeah.
I always had to write sentences. My mom was weird on sentences, right? Sometimes there was community service involved if it was like family. Like, I broke my grandfather's windshield in his truck playing baseball.
Yeah.
So there was some restitution there, some community service along with sentences, along getting grounded.
Yeah.
And whooped. And my mom also had this thing where because, I was a tough kid, right? I was really mad that my dad wasn't in my life. Like every boy yearns for their dad.
Yeah.
And so all the hate and pent up aggression that I had towards my dad, I would exercise that on my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd act like this tough idiot. And my mom would sit me down and be like, "You're just a punk." Like I used to get so mad. I used to just grind my teeth. So "You're just a punk.
Yeah.
You can't even wash your own clothes.
Yeah.
Right? You can't even wipe your own ass right. Like you're just a punk." Or she would say, "Oh, well, you want to be like your dad?
Oh,
is that what you want to do? Is that you want to be just like him?" And I hated him. At that time, I hated my dad.
Yeah.
So she'd be like, "Oh, it was like that mind game."
Yeah.
And I would nothing made me more upset than that.
Yeah.
And so there was, and then, 7th grade, I got suspended, had to go to an expulsion hearing in 7th grade. Got whooped in the face for that. Got slapped. That one hurt.
Yeah.
I think I got slapped twice for that one.
Yeah. Man, those are the ones that stick.
Yeah, I got in trouble in high school. Had to go to an expulsion hearing in high school.
Yeah.
By that time, though, the high school whooping, there was no whooping.
No.
That was the first time in my life where my mom just looked at me and just
you could just feel it.
Yeah, like she was just disgraced.
Yeah,
that I was her son. Like like I let her down.
Yeah.
Like she was just had no energy to even yell at me. She just went in her room and cried. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. Like, am I grounded? Do I go in my room? How come you didn't slap me? There was no argument. See, I'm used to the yelling. I'm used to getting slapped. I'm used to getting grounded. Yep. I'm used to the hammer.
Yep.
The first time the hammer didn't come, it was weird.
Yeah.
So I went and put my own self in my own room.
I was going to say,
I grounded my own self.
That almost had to be worse than.
Yeah. And just to hear her cry in her room with her door shut, like ripped me.
Oh, yeah.
Ripped me. That was like the first, the second, because the first one was like, do you want to be like your dad or you're just a punk? This was like the upgraded, mind thing.
Right.
The mind discipline from what she used to do. This was even worse because now I felt bad.
Yeah.
Like, well, my mom was just disgraced that I was her son.
Yeah.
And that ripped me.
Yeah.
Even though I gave my mom, remember, all the problems and took out all the frustration of having a dad, I loved her to death.
Yes.
Loved her to death. And so that hit hard. I'll never forget that moment, ever.
Well, there's a couple things in there that I think are fascinating. The kids need their mom and their dad, right? The mom brings that nurturing, brings that love, has the softness. Yep. And not to say that the dad can't have that too, but the dad brings that masculine energy that, especially for a boy, helps you channel it. Helps you.
I don't care what or who you believe in. Mother and dad are supposed to be.
Yes.
And they're supposed to be doing it together.
Yes.
That child needs both.
Needs both. Because you aren't all just, you are a man, but you've got a soft side too. Yeah. And if you didn't have a mom to help show you that piece, where are you learning? Right. So having both is so damn important.
Yeah. And I truly believe, like, not to harp on anyone that's different than Mike, but you do need mom and dad.
Yeah.
If you have dad and dad or mom and mom or one, you're selling the kid short.
Yes.
You're not giving the kid the entire package of parenting.
Yes.
Right. And I don't care how good you are. I don't care what you are, but if you don't have a mom and a dad, you're not getting the complete spectrum of parenting, in my opinion. You're shortchanging them either way.
I honestly don't care how offensive or whatever word you want to place on what you just said could potentially be for anybody out there.
No, and I'm just saying that because I'm open. You can be whatever you want. You can have a You can have a wife can have a wife. A husband can have you can do whatever in the hell you want.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's you.
Yep.
It's your life. Never impose it on me.
Yep.
And that's yours. I respect it. It's fine. It's life. It's what you chose.
Totally.
But in my personal opinion, I truly believe a child needs to be nurtured by a mom and a dad.
And the piece, this is why I don't care what the reaction is because the statistics back that up.
Right. Like, I mean, even if you throw beliefs, religion, if you throw all that out, and you go back to we're just animals, instinctually, that's how it works.
That is exactly how it works.
Look at mom and dad, right? Like look at every mammal on here, right? Like, and I'll tell you this: there is not one animal species that doesn't take care of their offspring.
Right.
Only humans. Only humans will throw their kid in a trash bin.
Isn't it?
Only humans will kill their infant child. Right?
Yep.
A whale's not going to kill its offspring.
No. Nope.
Right?
Nope.
No. Right? A lion is not going to have a baby and kill its offspring.
No.
The only species or creature on this land that will,
which is madness.
It's crazy, right?
Because just at a biological standpoint, you want your species to continue. So you're going to do all the biological things to help that youngling become prosperous, successful, whatever.
Animal kingdom or human kingdom.
Yep, they figured out. Humans, all of a sudden, we have the ability to think and make choices, choose right and wrong, all those things, and you end up with babies in trash cans. What the hell?
Yeah, crazy.
It's mad. Well,
all that to say is, a child needs mom and dad.
Yeah, a child needs mom and dad.
If you're shortchanging them, if you don't.
Yep. The other piece, let's see, is your mom crying? I remember my dad. I snuck out with my girlfriend, did some things I wasn't supposed to, thought I'd gotten away with it.
Look at you.
Came back, opened the front door, and my dad's standing right there. And he pulls all the way back and smacked the shit out of me. Ooh. And it made me angry. I knew I was wrong, and I knew I was going to be punished and all that stuff. But
it
my
probably
reaction,
hurt.
well, it
Was
hurt.
it in front of the girl?
No, because
Oh.
this is like 2, 3 o'clock.
There
in
would
the
have been embarrassment too.
Well, there would have been embarrassment,
Right.
but it was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I thought I was slick. I thought I'd gotten away with it, and there he was. I was caught, and I knew I was wrong, but I was angry.
Yeah.
But the times where I disappointed my mom, and she would just cry.
Yeah.
Man, there was, you could physically hurt me as much as you wanted to,
Yeah.
but as soon as I emotionally had somebody react that I had disappointed them,
Yeah.
gosh, those are the moments that stick.
And I think we talked about this. Like I'm the same way. Like if I can take the punishment when I do something wrong,
Yeah.
or when I hurt somebody.
Yep.
But when you do something wrong, you hurt somebody, and there's no punishment, and that especially when it's a person and they just cry and break down, and you are the cause of that pain.
Yep.
Man, there's nothing worse.
There's nothing worse.
It's like a bully picking on someone who's not capable of defending themselves. There's nothing worse than that. You just beg and plead for them to yell at you, belittle you, curse at you, hit you. Like there's no
punish me.
There's no worse feeling than bringing some kind of pain to a person and they just break down and cry and they don't fight back. That's the worst.
It's the worst.
And I got that with my mom.
I apologize for the unceremonious interruption to Mike's story. Chalk it up to your host still working out beginner's kinks. Please join me for the second half of Mike's story in the following episode, part 2 of Mike the Big-Hearted.